morning. Good morning, my friends, and welcome. Today is day 27 of the Karen Reed trial, and there's no jury today. There's going to be voir dire of experts, and I'm not even sure which ones. I know the expert for the dog bites that the defense is going to call. Her name is Dr. Marie Russell. And I believe that Lally insisted on a voir dire of the FBI experts that are going to come in and decimate Trooper Paul's accident reconstruction theories. So that's going to be fun. And I don't even know if it's going to be a full day. So I guess we're just going to play it by ear, hang out together. And for posterity, today is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. And I thank you so much for choosing to spend your trial day with me, because I know that you have lots of options and lots of other channels where you could be watching your coverage at your own risk, of course, because some of you know you've been on the mainstream media trial channels, and it's scary over there. It's scary. For some reason, I don't know why, but Court TV doesn't have it up until 9:30, and Law and Crime has it up for 9 o'clock. So I know Court TV did that yesterday too. They said that they were not coming on until 9:30, but then they did come on early. So I don't know. I'm just confused. If anybody has any further insight into that, as always, please let me know in the chat so that I can see. We don't want to miss a minute. But Paul, are you partial? Are you a buff? Are you a buff? Love Colorado. I'm a buff. Buffs are, we're coming. We coming. Coach Prime says we're coming this year. And I believe it. It's a baseball hat kind of day. Not enough time to get up and do the things and the stuff. And, I went outside for a little while. It's a beautiful day here in New York. What's the weather like by you? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Allison Cosgrove. Says congrats on 50K. We hit 50K on Sunday night while you guys were all on the stream with me. And that was pretty cool. Pretty awesome, as Larry David would say. So thank you. Thank you, Allison, for the 10 spot. And hey, it's all because of you guys. It's all because of you guys tuning in. And Stacy became a new member. Welcome, Stacy. And Charlie Lynn gifting a membership first thing in the morning. Thank you, Charlie Lynn. Whoever received it, welcome to you. I think you're going to like it here. We have a lot of fun here, right, guys? Right, guys? Oh, that's interesting. Margaret was in a respiratory clinic. Margaret, I hope you're feeling well. Breathing easy today. In your Jackson, are you sitting there now? Jackson Yannetti t-shirt. I wonder if anybody's going to say anything to you. I wonder if you're in Massachusetts, and if you are, if that makes a difference. And if you're somewhere else, let us know. And I'll be interesting to see if anybody says anything to you. Somebody wrote me an email. It was a guy, and he said he was working out at the gym, and I guess he was on a machine of something like a cardio machine. He had my coverage on his phone, and the woman behind him tapped him on the shoulder and said, "I watch Melanie Little too." And I was like, "Oh, look at me making love connections all over the Planet Fitnesses of the world, and the Gold Gyms and whatever other, I don't know what gym it was exactly, but I thought that was pretty cool. Look, it's a topic of conversation, right? It is a topic of conversation. Yeah, I know, Sylvia. Mainstream always has not so classy people in their chats with cases. Yeah, and I don't know if they don't moderate them, or if they just tolerate more things than others do, because people just attack each other personally, and it's just so insane. And the way they attack the witnesses' looks, and Karen's facial expressions and what she's wearing, it's just, I don't know. We don't tolerate that here. You know that. Good morning, Cam. You love the hat. Thank you. Proud CU alum and buff. Love Coach Prime. I love Coach Prime too. I think this is the year. Congratulations, by the way, on your Celtics last night. That was really cool. I tuned in right at the end, and I saw all the confetti falling from the ceiling. And how cool that it was a home game, right? It was a home game. What was it like? Was anybody there? And were you outside on the streets? And was it like insane? And do they do the same sort of like ticker tape type parade thing that they do when the Yankees win or the Red Sox win? Oh, that's so funny. That's a funny little Barb always watches me on the gym at the treadmill. Yay, Peter. Thank you. Thank you. One of my amazing moderators. Peter's been with me and his wife, Rochella, since day one. Day one, as has Patronus Glow. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's all because of you making this a safe place to be. Busy chat room. Yeah, it's a busy chat room. It is. It is. Where are you, Ryan? Up far too early? I know, that is right. These cupcakes are not shallow. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Buenos dias from Miami. Hello, good morning, Miami. Oh, that's where you bang pots. What do they do? What do they do for the Celtics, you guys? Was it a scene? Thanks, Lynn, for becoming a member. They do a duck boat parade? Oh, that's cool. What is a duck boat parade? I don't even know what that is. Amy, Sue, Aaron, four of my cousins are CU grads and their kiddos too. It's a pretty awesome place to be. Two of my kids are also buffs. So that's pretty awesome. It's a family tradition. We love it there. And I couldn't wait until after I graduated to go back there again. And luckily I get to go there a lot now. So it's pretty exciting. If there's any Boulder people, tell me who you are. Send me some emails. Maybe we'll do like a meetup in Boulder sometime. That would be pretty awesome on a football day. Wouldn't that be fun? All the home games, or many of the home games, I think are going to be on national TV this year, which is amazing because, who's got the Pac-12 network? Nobody had the Pac-12 network here. You couldn't even find a bar that had it. Like it doesn't exist. Thank you, Cal. Another of my amazing moderators. I love you too. Love you too. Congrats on the 50K. Thank you. Sewing, Kat, did you know that we have a Rage Crochet Club here? We do. Rage Crochet is all the rage here. And I think Sharon Creates is the leader. I'm not sure. Duck boat parade here in Beantown. All right, well, that's cool. What time do they come in? What time does the parade happen? Sue Latorno, cue the duck boats. It's the 3H's this morning in Ontario, hazy, hot, and humid. Hello, Christina. Kelly. YouTube is having issues, Kelly. I don't know what the story is. I want you to have that cupcake next to your name. We need to have it. We need to get it there. Java time. Thank you. Thank you so much. Inez, your dad graduated from the CU School of Pharmacy. That's awesome. 20 years later, your brother graduated from it is a family tradition, right? You have to have a lot of buffs in the family. Oh, another Mama 5 in the chat. Hello, Courtney. Courtney writes books. When do you find the time to write books with 5 kids? Love your commentary. I have no idea what the child people on mainstream channels are watching. I know. You guys, people out there thought, I think, because you sent it to me, that Ian Whiffen and Jessica Hyde sealed the deal that the 227 search did not happen. I think we're watching a different trial because didn't Ian Whiffen say yesterday that he couldn't say that it didn't happen? And then it was like an infomercial for his own software. I was so confused by that. And I don't tell me there's nobody out there who is of the opinion that Trooper Paul did a great job on the stand and that his accident reconstruction theory sealed the deal. That John O'Keefe got spun around in a pirouette and flew after slamming his head on the curb, flew 30 feet into the air. What? He was an infomercial, right, Jackie? I thought he said there were 9 searches, Carol says. Yeah, they were so credible. I mean, I just can't wait. What we're going to get today is like a sneak peek of what the defense experts are going to say and how they're going to present themselves and their credentials and their opinions and their expertise. And I believe what you're going to say, what you're going to see is that is going to be a far cry from what we have seen. I mean, Trooper Paul. I mean, let's just talk about Trooper Paul. As you know, I was a civil litigator for, 30 years and hired accident reconstruction experts on the regular, mostly in complex cases, but oftentimes in other cases too. And the accident reconstruction experts that I would hire in a civil case blew that guy's doors off. I mean, he had no experience. He really was so very certain about his opinions, and yet he knew nothing about physics. He knew nothing about physics. I mean, I almost feel like the questions were so unfair. Like he didn't know what acceleration was. He didn't know what confirmation bias was. Really? Really? You're a police officer and you don't know what confirmation bias is? It was so not believable. And he really, really struggled. And he really, I felt like Alan Jackson was being easy on him because he could have been a lot rougher on him, I think. Hi, Judy Bird Chronicles. Trooper Paul has shoddy, flimsy credibility. The only opinion I would take from him is more potential cover up. But that's the thing. I don't think he was involved in anything. I think that he was just given a specific set of facts, just like most of the experts in this case were, told only to look into that and come up with a theory of how it happened. Here's what we know. We know this data recorder recorded this event at 24.2 miles an hour, 60 feet in reverse. And by the way, somebody sent me an email or a comment, and I can't remember where. But if you watch the video of the tow truck driver backing up Karen's car from the driveway in Dighton with like at least a foot of snow, I think you can see the tires spinning, and that could be 24 miles an hour. And that could have been 60 feet that he had to back that car up from the driveway to get it onto that flatbed tow truck. So, I mean, that could be an event. That could be a triggering event. And I'm sure there's going to be an expert to refute that. But I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for evidence that Officer John O'Keefe was hit by a car. I haven't seen it yet. They haven't convinced me. Show me some bumper marks on his body, and then I'll start to think about it. Mazia, when AJ performed a pirouette, I lost it. We all lost it. The pirouette was perfect. Perfect. I put a picture of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on the thumbnail yesterday because it was like the flying car that flew, backed into him, and then flew away because there were no tire marks. I mean, when he said that John O'Keefe had his arm out like this, and then the taillight hit his arm with the cocktail glass, and the cocktail glass made a dent in the car, and that, when he was confronted with the fact that none of the glass on the bumper matched that drinking glass, he was like, "Oh, so there was glass there. There's glass there. So what?" I felt so gaslit after that testimony. Did you? And I don't even think he was smart enough to gaslight us. I think he was just like, it didn't matter. Like the measurements didn't matter. He stated emphatically that the way that he figured out where the point of impact was between the Lexus and the body was from the furthest piece of debris. And yet when confronted with a piece of debris that he didn't think was important to put on his map, that was further away and down by the fire hydrant, and asked whether that would change his opinion, he actually said, "No. We are all in the twilight zone together, and it's been going on for a very long time, at least since January when we started covering this case together." Thank you, Dennis, so much for the Canadian 20. Love your commentary, your style, your flowers, and your backdrop. You and your channel are classy. Thank you. Thank you. And try. I mean, there's got to be some nice places to go on YouTube, right? And if there's not, as Kevin Costner said, "If you build it, they will come." And it's so apropos because Kevin Costner was my first series of live videos on divorce. And I think the first one I posted as well. Posted one, and then I decided to do lives. Thank you, on because I hate editing. Thank you, Super Sticker. Thank you, Super Sticker, for your on top. Thank you, on top, for being on top of the Super Sticker this morning, and Lynn for becoming a member. Lynn V, we have a lot of Lynn's here. And Maltats, thank you for becoming a member. Sandra P. from Luxembourg. Good morning, all the way from Luxembourg. I watch every single day and enjoy your coverage. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Everyone say hi to Sandra from Luxembourg. Maltats, didn't you just became a member? And again? And Mazela, thank you for becoming a member. I think that's what it says. My eyes are a little this morning. Leandra, good morning. Dad and his friends start their day watching. Hello to Leandra's dad and his friends. Good morning. It's casual Tuesday today because we're not in court. So Sco Buffs and congratulations, Celtics. And good morning, Leandra. It's always so lovely to see you here. You're an enthusiastic participant of the chat. My words will come to me eventually. It's been a long night. Railroaded, thank you for gifting a membership. So very kind of you. And Shannon says, thanks, Shannon, for the 10. I'm so glad to have young you. You're the best. People out there think I'm pretty old, and I am pretty old, but I appreciate that. I don't know if that was a typo. Blair became a new member. Welcome, Blair. I love that name, Blair. It reminds me of Facts of Life. Remember Facts of Life? Such a great show. Debbie Blair, thanks for being a member for months. Loves me and the chat. The chat is really amazing. You guys have all made friends with each other. You're so kind to each other. You're so compassionate to each other. And one of our viewers yesterday said that she was stage 4 breast cancer and her biopsy came back positive. And you were so lovely and compassionate. So keep up the good work, my friends. You don't realize how many people out there you may be helping who are home, alone, lonely, don't really have anybody to talk to, and they're here and they're talking to you and I'm talking to them and we're all talking to each other. And so we can do something to brighten someone's day. I'm all for it. Well, Barb, thanks for being a member for a month. Wolfram, thank you for the 5. For John to fly 30 feet after being struck in his arm, Karen must have been reversing at warp 9. Yeah, and he must have been like on the flying Walenda. What were they called? The flying Walendas? The trapeze guys from the Ringling Brothers Circus. I think they were called the Flying Walendas. And it wasn't even just guys, it was a whole family. It was a whole family of trapeze artists. And maybe John was taking trapeze classes. I don't know. It was insane. Amanda, thanks, Amanda. Please never leave us again. Smash the like button for me, everyone. Smash the like button. It helps the algorithm. Yesterday's stream was demonetized again. And I can't figure out why. Because I thought yesterday was pretty clean, wasn't it? Was there anything yesterday in the testimony that was in any way like bad language? I know everyone got demonetized the day that Proctor said the C word because they hate that word more than anything on YouTube. Thanks, Estelle, for becoming a member. Welcome. And thanks to Level Little 1989 for becoming a member. So I don't know. I don't think that we did anything yesterday or anybody said anything. I wonder if it was when Nicholas Guarino was on the stand and he said, Kami. They don't like that word. They don't like anything that promotes the unaliving or self-deletion. I've got law and crime up, and I see uncivil law in the chat over there. So can somebody tell him, first of all, what is he doing there? He's going to get killed in the law and crime chat. And second of all, he should be here if he's not live streaming this trial. What is up with that? And there goes my iced coffee that I just dumped on the floor. It's going to be one of those days, my friends. It's going to be one of those days. Danielle said, I love the Facts of Life. Joe is my favorite. A tomboy through and through. I love her. I love Nancy McKeon. Is she still out there? Where's Nancy McKeon? I think she is. I think I've seen her on some sort of social, like maybe YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, maybe Instagram or something. And she was a huge when the SAG strike happened. Oh, Team Brittany says that chitty chitty bang bang might sound like the S word, but I don't think that's what it was. I don't think that's what it was. I don't know. But it's really annoying that it's so arbitrary and capricious of the YouTube, reviewers and their AI systems out there to when someone does something for over 8 hours on your platform and you still show commercials anyway. So to give them a yellow dollar sign without rhyme or reason. So thanks, YouTube, for nothing. Danielle, yes, we're talking about that, but also I had another thought. And that thought was, I can't remember right now, but I will. The world needs more kindness. Beck. The world needs more kindness. No bruises on his arm at all. There are no bumper marks to his lower body. No torso injuries. No broken legs. No knee injuries. Ankle injuries. I can't wait to hear from the medical examiner. That's going to be my favorite witness, I think, because once the medical examiner can't say this is a homicide, number one, and that it's even a car accident, number two, and that she did receive or was on at least 2 conference calls with Yuri and Proctor, asking her to change her report to homicide and perhaps sprinkle in a few more nuggets about a car accident. That could be explosive testimony, because I don't think there's any doctor out there that is going to risk her career for the Massachusetts State Police, especially after the Boston Herald cover that came out yesterday. And how the governor is very, very angry about what's happening in this trial. Your governor over there in Massachusetts. And it said we are outraged. Like, there was an outraged reference on the cover of the Herald yesterday. We pulled it up. It's crazy. Oh, Lisa Louise, busy night here in Boston. I'm just waking up. Yeah, I guess there was a lot of partying last night, right? Good morning, Lisa. For those of you who are joining late because you're waking up and calling into work with the Irish flu this morning, good morning. Make the coffee and drink the Pedialyte. We are outraged. Charlie Lynn, we are so outraged. Oh, thank you, Denise. Denise is praying for the lady with the stage 4 breast cancer. You're not alone. We love you and are praying. Sunflower Day. Thank you. I pointed out the tow truck driver spinning the tires, trying to get on the flatbed, which was the key cycle he was talking about. That's what I think. He did not include those 2 key cycles. Yep. Wouldn't that be a triggering event? There was a lot of snow in that driveway. Trooper Paul looks like a lot like a whack job that Proctor can push around to get any conclusion he wants. Yep. We're going to get a little taste of the expertise of these witnesses today. And I told you that from the beginning, that I think they're going to be a little older, maybe a little more experienced, and have better resumes than some of the people that we've seen from the Commonwealth so far. And what is so interesting is that really all they did was talk about the 227 Jen McCabe Google search, right? Ian Whiffen and Jessica Hyde. The only reason Jessica Hyde was even hired was to disprove that 227 AM search. So are we trying to prove that Jen McCabe did nothing wrong, or are we trying to prove, we meaning the Commonwealth, that Karen Reed is guilty of murder? This whole thing is backwards. It's crazy, and I've never seen anything like it. Have you? Can you give me another example of another trial where the prosecution spent their entire time trying to prove that somebody else didn't do it, instead of proving that the defendant did? Catch Check 56. It's 11:12 p.m. here in Australia. I'll be listening to. I love this chat. We love you too. We love you too. We love all the Aussies, all the friends from down under. Yes, Danielle, uncivil. Oops. Is very angry with Trooper Paul testimony. It is the most appalling testimony I have ever witnessed. I watched because I knew that he saw it, and then he went back and did a reaction to it. So as I was outside doing some work yesterday, moseying around the backyard and such, I was listening to him, and he wasn't even as angry as I thought he should have been, but he did have a good laugh about it, because Kurt is a computer genius. He has a degree in computer science, and the fact that this guy didn't know anything about 9:13. Why is nobody starting? Didn't know anything about physics and basic questions. People sent me tweets. Oh, there you are. Uncivil. I saw you over there in the law and crime shack, because I have that feed up. And I was wondering if you were going to survive over there. I could see it on my other screen that people were saying hi to you. Like, what are you doing? You're going to get killed. You're going to get killed. Kay says the Commonwealth wants us to believe that Jen did not know what happened to John in her sister and brother-in-law's home. I mean, I don't know. Right. But like, why are they spending all their time and money on that? Yeah, Victor, great defense strategy. Trish, I thought they didn't get the Google records for the browser history. The testimony was confusing, and Lally does not have the ability to clean it up. He doesn't. And the jury was laughing yesterday during Trooper Paul's testimony, laughing like they couldn't contain it. Remember, we were watching, and I said, I can't believe nobody in the gallery in that first row is laughing because they would have had a hard time. Good morning. Good morning, Shannon Donahue. Thanks for the super sticker. You found me. Was I missing? I didn't know I was missing. True Crime with Stephanie Michelle. Thank you for the 50. I just started my own channel, and my first live is tonight. I'm so nervous, but I'm just going to do it. You're one of the big reasons I am starting. I just signed up for StreamYard, and my operating is now Google, not Safari. Keep me up with the good work. Thank you, True Crime with Stephanie Michelle. We will all come over and watch you. What time? Tell us what time. Eastern. We'll come check you out. I know what it's like to do your first live. I thought nobody would come except my mother and maybe my kids, and it was really great. So just do it. I hate editing, so I don't like making videos and then putting them up. But thank you so much for your generous 50. And let's all go support True Crime with Stephanie Michelle. As long as you're kind, Stephanie. We don't like mean people. See, look, I even have a sign. Be nice or leave. Hello, Uncivil. Good morning. Thanks for the 5. I have a challenge for you. Make your best attempt to steel man how that expert witness yesterday meets the standards under Friday. Dalbert. Go. Listen, I call it Dalbert because I like the French pronunciation better. I know some people call it Dalbert, but it just doesn't fly with me. And here's the thing, and I'm so confused about this. Did he even testify as an expert? I think that he was not qualified as an expert. I do not think he was testifying as an expert. I think he was just testifying as the law enforcement officer who was tasked with, who was thrown under the bus with having to investigate and reconstruct this accident. I don't think that he was offered as an expert. Tell me what you think. I mean, he's the guy on duty who did the thing. So I don't think he has to be, I don't think he had to be qualified as an expert. Massachusetts is like, there's they got their own set of rules there. It's a very different jurisdiction from what I'm used to. So, I mean, that's my opinion, because they didn't there was no motion to keep him out or to keep him from testifying, because he was like a witness who did actually examine the stuff and do the things. Love a little. Thank you. Good morning. And thank you for the 10. As a mother of a child with a colostomy, Proctor needs to go. What he said in the text about Karen is disgusting. I am outraged that he hasn't been fired yet. I stand with Karen. I don't like bullies. Yeah. And you know what, Love a little? Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that. And I am wishing that your child has all of the healing vibes and is doing well. And that is not something that anybody wants to have to deal with, but it's a necessity sometimes, right? And how dare he? This entire case is full of bullies, full of them, full of them. Mostly all the witnesses that have been on the stand have been bullies. You can see it, you can hear it, you can see their facial expressions, and you can judge for yourselves. You don't need to take my opinion. But the longer this case goes on, the more the average people that are watching it, who are watching it, are becoming outraged that people can be such bullies and that they can actually, through their testimony and their statements, have a woman arrested and then upgrade her charges to murder with virtually no evidence of a car accident occurring. This is what blows my mind. This is my jam: accident reconstruction, civil litigation. He was in no way qualified. Kurt, you're absolutely right. It was a joke. It was embarrassing for him, and I feel bad for him that he was thrown under the bus. He tried really, really hard to memorize his lines. He tried really hard, but he wasn't able to. I guess they're starting at 9:30 because Law and Crime just changed their time to 9:30, and that's fine because we have more time to chat anyway, which we like to do. A little debrief of what we saw yesterday. That infomercial for ARCCA. Did anybody check the Celebrite stock price today? Because yesterday it was at $2.11. When I checked it at the end of the day, Celebrite was up to $2.12. So I wonder if at end of day it tanked. because there may be a civil suit against that guy, even Ian Whiffen, who said on behalf of Celebrate, we realized that the timestamps on our extraction data for Google searches could be wildly inaccurate. So we just took out the timestamps. Like, what? That's I don't know, dangerous testimony to give. And I think he's still employed there, but I don't know for how much longer. So yes, love a little. Thank you for your super chat. Um, and this case is full of bullies, and people are done with it. People are done with it. Susan Agnello, thank you so much for the 5 and for your lovely comment that you left on my post yesterday. Seriously, I'm starting to think that this has to be theater, because how could this be real and not be deemed a mistrial? Every day I look around for Ashton Kutcher, James Marsden, who played himself in Jury Duty on Amazon Prime, if you haven't watched it. And every day I think this is going to be a reality show or some sort of candid camera. Somebody's going to jump out and say, surprise, we were just kidding. Ha, ha, ha. We loved getting your reactions. But no, it keeps going. The train keeps rolling down the track. And as Mark Betterow said when he was on with me, and he said it other places too, that if Michael Marcy would just grow a pair, perhaps come in. Waiting for the evidence. Boy, people were going off yesterday about how those text messages would prove it. They prove it. They prove that she had a motive to, like, are we watching the same trial? Those text messages that were read in open court yesterday were nothing more than a normal relationship between 2 people, one who is an avoidant and didn't like to talk about his feelings and didn't like to, after he lashed out at her that morning, didn't wanna make up with her, and she was trying to make up with him. And then later that night, he calls her like, "Are you coming? What time are you coming? One of the kids needs to go to the doctor, and one of the kids needs to go somewhere else. Like, I need your help, and I need you to drive me home because, Kurt isn't gonna be able to because, he's gotta get home early because or otherwise Carrie's gonna be in a mood." Remember Kurt Robert said that if he didn't clear the driveway, that she'd be in a mood when she got home. And then she goes there, and then he wants to go to the after party with his buddies, and then she goes home and starts getting angrier and angrier. I can see that happening, and there was nothing crazy in those text messages, in my opinion. It was like a normal they're shouting again. It was like a normal argument between a couple, and, I'm sure that many of you can tell me that you have had far worse text messages than that, and it did not cause you to want to violently take the life of your partner, significant other, spouse, and leave them to die in the cold. And I think the jury's going to see that too. Remember, there's 9 women left and 6 men. And from people who were in the courtroom yesterday, they were laughing during Trooper Paul's testimony. So, um, I mean, I hear there's going to be some voicemails that Karen left for John that are going to shock our conscience. We're going to be in shock and horror. Oh, and here's the other thing they're saying is that the text where Karen says, I went home, I'm in Mansfield, and the kids are alone. And right away I started saying, oh, she's just trying to get him to answer her calls. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to say something that's going to either get him to answer her calls or come home, but she would never leave those kids alone. People are saying that that was her alibi. She was creating an alibi for herself by saying she was in How did that even make sense? If their theory is that she hit him at 12:45, but that time keeps getting closer and closer to 12:30. Have you been paying attention? Lally said in his opening, and I remember because I wrote it down and I said to you, all of you, I said 12:45. We know she was in the garage at 12:41 because she's leaving a voicemail and you can hear her heels on the driveway or the garage floor. But Lally had 12:45. So now he's going to change his whole theory based on what? Why didn't he get it right the first time? He should have had his theory locked up tight in his opening, and he should have started with some testimony that would have got the jury to say, wow, this really happened the way he said. But he didn't. He just brought on witness after witness after witness after witness to say that Colin Albert was never in the house. John O'Keefe was never in the house, and people who were really scared to be there. Remember the testimony of Julie Albert, Nicole Albert. They were, you could see on the stand, they didn't want to be there. They were not as enthusiastic to testify as people like Jen McCabe were. Couldn't wait to get that story out, that horrifying story that she couldn't believe that Carrie Roberts told Proctor. And then when I asked her what this horrifying story was that she overheard, because she was sitting in the next room, because the interview happened at her house, she said, oh, she said that she said that John really loved Amy. John always loved Amy, and Karen was nothing more than a babysitter with benefits. I was horrified. You think she was horrified, or you think she couldn't wait to tell us that? And the world and the jury. You decide. Breast 6073, thanks for the 5. Do you think Guarino's cross could include questions about how he missed all the texts and GPS from Sandra Birchmore case of the cops who abused her? No, it can't, because that's more prejudicial and probative. That case has not been litigated. I don't even know what is happening with that case. I need to look into that, and I'm writing it down right now, because Sandra Birchmore's memory deserves a deep dive. And I know that she was groomed as a young child. I think she was a teenager, maybe 15, 14, 13, when she started hanging around with some of these police officers. And there are allegations of nefarious doings with this young girl, and that eventually she allegedly took her own life. And some of the same players that are involved in the Karen Reed case are involved in that case. And that many people are saying that she did not take her own life, that her life was taken by another. I'm going to try and be so good today. At least for the first 5 minutes, but yesterday was 8 hours. So who knows what their AI program picked up? I don't know. So it can't come into this trial, but I think that her memory does deserve a little bit of a deeper dive. And nobody has ever been charged in that case, if I'm right, correct? They still ruled it suicidal. Is that right? That's heartbreaking. And they groomed her from a young age, from what I understand. But I can't really opine too much about it, because I don't like to do that without having facts and really done a deep dive into it. For those just joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit the like button on your way in. We're waiting for Court TV to start. And ooh, fan is up. Barney Fife is Trooper Paul. Leandro, you're so funny. You guys keep me laughing every day. So keep your comments, keep them funny, entertain us. Let me entertain you. Court TV was smart enough to disable their live chat today. So there's that. Guess they realized that a lot of people don't like to watch it because they're outraged by the chat. Because the chatters can be not so nice over there, right? Right? Let's do this until something happens. So when I was in court on Friday, I met the fan. We had a nice conversation. I told the fan that maybe the fan could tone it down a little, because it makes us nauseous. And I looked around that courtroom, and I thought, why is there anything else in this courtroom they could focus on? There's nothing. There are no paintings. Mark Betterow and I did take a little tour of the first courtroom that they used to be in, which is much, much larger, much more elegant. The architecture in that building, it's over 100 years old. I don't know if anybody wants to Google or knows when that Norfolk County Superior Court was built, but it is beautiful. And that courtroom has tray ceilings, and the architecture it's just stunning. Paintings all over of, former judges who retired, and Sacco and Vanzetti were tried in that same courthouse in 1920. I know that because Vinnie Politan says it all the time. So I looked it up. And it's a historical, beautiful building. And that other courtroom has paintings that, the cameraman could focus on. And I say man because it is a man. I actually saw him. But there's nothing else in this courtroom for him to focus on. There are no paintings on the wall. Remember in Murdoch, when in the Murdoch case, the courthouse, the courtroom they were trying the case in had not a poster, a painting on the wall of one of Murdoch's relatives. And they had to remove it. Remember, it was like his great grandfather or something. Thanks, Rescue Puppy. For the 5, Commonwealth gave a copy of the phone without the hash key. He used his own free software, not Celebrite. Yeah. That is Ian Whiffen, who did a great infomercial yesterday for his own app that he developed, he has given it away for free, and he has 600 users worldwide. I mean, I think that's going to be brought up in closing, don't you? Like, who are we going to rely on? Are we going to rely on the guy who has 600 users worldwide and his software to give you an opinion about that Google search? But regardless of that Google search, whether it happened or it didn't, I still haven't seen any evidence that John O'Keefe was hit by a car. None. Her confessions. Her confessions. She said I hit him. She said I hit him. No, she was gaslit into thinking she hit him by a woman who drove her back to her sister's house and said, do you think you might have hit him? Do you think you might have hit him? Maybe a plow hit him. Maybe you hit him. And all of the initial statements, we've been over them 100 times, so you know that I know what I'm talking about. She's quoted as saying, "Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? He's my boyfriend. Is he dead? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?" I don't think it's a confession. I think trauma can affect a lot of people in a lot of ways. I think when you pull up to the house where you last remembered dropping off your boyfriend, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is, did I do something? Because your mind would not leap naturally to a bunch of people in that house may have pummeled him or pulverized him and then dragged his body or threw his body on the front lawn. I don't know. That's a reasonable conclusion to come to because we haven't seen anything else. Thanks, Karen, for becoming a member. Nancy Rock, I'm so glad to be a cupcake. Oh, thanks for the 10, Nance. I'm so glad to have you. I'm so glad to have you. What a community we have built, huh? Really kind, nice people. Indie Girl says, love your channel, Melanie. Hi, chat. Good morning, Indie Girl. Good morning. Sandra became a member. Thank you, Sandra, and welcome. Sandra says, great channel, Melanie, and thank you for the super chat, and greetings from Singapore. See, the world's watching. Singapore, Norway, Australia, Canada. I don't know if our friend Franco Cimino is here today, but he's watching from Napoli. He's in Italy. Uncivil, thank you. I want to see Massachusetts. For NIED, for my brain damage. Negligent infliction of emotional distress. That's my jam. I don't know if Auntie Bev will admit me pro hoc vice in Massachusetts because I think I'm probably persona non grata there, but I could do I could do that. Duty Ron, thank you so much for coming in with the $50 super chat. Congrats on 50K. I'm so happy for your much deserved success. Can't wait to give you $100 on the 100K mark. Love you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Duty Ron. I started my YouTube career as a guest on Duty Ron's show. It was over a year ago, and Ed Wallace, his partner, was on assignment somewhere in an undisclosed location. He's like, will you come on and co-host with me sometimes? I was like, sure. And we covered a lot of cases together. We still do. And Duty Ron, I love you. You're my friend. You're my mentor. And you taught me all of the ways of YouTube and how to be a good person with integrity on YouTube and taught me who to watch out for. And remember that first hate comment that you sent me and you said, okay, now you know you're making waves when people hate you. I was like, that's so mean. Why do people hate me? But guess you get used to it after a while, right? Thank you, Duty Ron. I love you so much. Can't wait to see you in person soon. Sweet Caroline, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you. Veronica Silva, so you are a fan of the fan. Yes. Only fans all the time here on Court TV. Thanks, Veronica. Melly, good morning. Happy Tuesday, Melly. Happy Tuesday, Melly. Melly, I know that you're a moderator for Vinny Politan's channel, right? His private channel, his channel that is not affiliated with Court TV. And has he changed his mind? Does he think Karen Read is guilty? A lot of people are saying that he thinks Karen Read is guilty, but I got the other impression from him. I don't know, Melly, if you want to give us the tea on that, or if you even should, because you're a mod and you should probably be neutral and sworn to secrecy. And is there moderator content creator privilege? There should be. There should be. They should be. Oh, yeah. Maybe I should put the Spotify playlist pin it to the comments for you guys, or put it in the chat. You want the playlist for Spotify for the Karen Read trial? We have a mixtape that we've all contributed to for all of the songs that have come up during this trial, because I think in song lyrics, like so many of you, and we have a playlist for that. Kay Henderson became a member. Welcome, 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 Kay. Kathleen, good morning. Thanks for the super chat. Will Emmy catch heat for ad hoc under pressure statement in autopsy report? No evidence victim was in a fight. I don't know if she's going to catch heat or if she's going to throw them under the bus. Because if you're her, what do you do? Right? You're a doctor, you're a medical examiner. This is your livelihood. This is your reputation on the line. This is your career. Did she throw them under the bus and say, listen, they threatened me that I had to put this in there? They gave me a very strong suggestion. I don't know. I think it's going to go their way, and it's going to depend on her direct.
Thank you. Maybe see the close down session.
I don't like the way she threw down her
22117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
files. She doesn't look happy already.
All right. Good morning, counsel. Ms. Reed. Are all of the witnesses here, Mr. Jackson?
They are, Your Honor.
I'd like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Are you both prepared to?
Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I could not hear you.
I would like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Is that her name?
Russell. Dr. Russell, yes. The order would be.
Can't hear her.
Proposed based on scheduling, Dr. Russell, Dr. Wolfe, Dr. Rentschler.
Okay, then that's good because that's the order I prefer. So, all right. Do you have a CV for her? Good morning. Morning, Tori. Do you have a CV I could look at for her, please?
The CV is a resume, for those of you who don't know, for an expert witness. Looks like this might only be a half a day. Good morning, Lori Life 360 for the win.
Yes, I do.
And she has not written a report?
She's not.
Oh, the heavy breathing is starting. Can somebody please
All right, let's bring her in, please.
put some sigh emojis
Your
in
Honor,
the chat?
before we get started, can I get an understanding? We started to say it at sidebar the other day, and you said you wanted to put that off to get to the witnesses. But I need a little bit of an understanding of what the court's expectations are. My understanding of voir dire, which this seems to be unusual in terms of the timing of it, is
The understanding of the voir dire is this is for the Commonwealth's motion to exclude this testimony. All right, that's what we're here for, the Rule 14 violation.
is that the same with Dr. Wolfe and Dr. Rentschler?
Well, I thought that would help both of you. The Commonwealth has nothing on that, and you say you haven't been able to even talk to them at all about this case.
That's correct.
So I want to find out if they have any credible, competent evidence to put forward. So we'll have a voir dire on them as well. But for Dr. Russell, what we're doing here today is there's an alleged there's appears to me to be a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of defense counsel regarding Dr. Russell. So let's hear from her today to see what the appropriate remedy is for this violation.
So my intention is to ask her so I have, the court understands my sort of guardrails. My intention is to ask her what her qualifications are, which is that's the basis for a voir dire. And that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not intending to ask her what her opinions are, conclusions. I'm going to ask her if she's come to opinions and conclusions, but I don't want to have to examine her concerning her full opinions, her full conclusions, what she's based those conclusions on. It's unfair. We've provided the defense everything, the prosecution, everything that we need to provide to them in terms of disclosure. They've got the equivalent of a report. They've got a summary of what she's going to testify to.
When was that provided? My order was 1 week from the start of trial, right?
Well, we didn't, Your Honor, in fairness, they didn't even finish their discovery.
He's right.
1 week before the start of trial. So it's a little unfair for us to be put on the stage.
1 week from the filing of the certificate of compliance.
Well, I don't know when I can't remember. My co-counsel indicates it was the day before trial.
Okay.
So during the course of, look, trial is a dynamic thing. During the course of the trial, I did not know who Dr. Marie Russell was at the time that they filed their certificate of compliance. We then attempted to and did give them the reciprocal discovery that we were obligated to do after they filed their certificate of compliance.
When?
Within 3 days of that. We had been giving them information prior to that, but at least within 3 days of that. We've continued, so the record's clear, we've continued to get additional discovery from the Commonwealth in notices of discovery throughout the trial. They have not finished. In fact, during the trial, they interviewed Jen McCabe, apparently, had a full interview with her.
During the trial?
Lieutenant Tully took a report, dated the report, and then they held on to that report until after she testified. The interview, the report, and the completion of the report were all done before her testimony.
Do you need to call her again?
Your Honor, that's not my, and I think the court understands, that's not my point. My point is not, I need to call Jennifer McCabe back. I've done the damage that needs to be done on Jennifer McCabe.
Yes, you
The
have.
point is,
I'm sorry, I missed that. You've what?
I've done the damage that needed to be done on Jennifer McCabe. I don't need to call her back. The point is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The Commonwealth doesn't get to stand in the position of piecemealing and feeding us information, reports, discovery through
Oh, their sound just cut out.
seminal information about an expert that we did not know about, never met, never heard of. Within 3 days of that, we provide everything that we have about that witness to the Commonwealth. They can't then turn around and say, oh, well, it's all the defense's fault. So we want to have a voir dire, which means that the euphemism for that voir dire is we want to have two bites at the apple.
Okay.
We want to be able to completely cross-examine her, then go back to our expert. And if she testifies, cross-examine her again after consulting with our expert. That's two bites at the apple, and that's not fair.
That's right.
If the court wants to hear whether or not Dr. Marie Russell is qualified to testify about the arm injuries, that, I believe, is the parameters, the proper parameters of the voir dire, and that's what I'm prepared to do today.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't planning on
The sound keeps cutting out.
her testimony because that's been provided. And I don't think Mr. Lally should be able to get into the substance of her testimony because he knows what the substance is because, like I said, that's been provided.
All right, so I disagree. I'm going to hear from the Commonwealth on this.
It's ridiculous.
Is it Ms. McLaughlin or Mr. Lally?
Where are my Massachusetts attorneys?
Your Honor, just briefly in regard to what counsel was referencing with Ms. McCabe, it was not a full interview by Lieutenant Tully. It was and I don't have it on me at this moment, but I can give the court a copy of that report. But essentially it was Ms. McCabe met with Lieutenant Tully, looked at some video and was asked a single question. That report wasn't available. I didn't have it until after Ms. McCabe testified, but it was given to counsel prior to Lieutenant Tully testifying, and there were no questions asked of Lieutenant Tully in regard to that.
Okay, that's crap. That's crap. You showed Jen McCabe a video before she testifies and ask her, what video was it, number one? And if it was the video of them getting out of the car and running into One Meadows where they lambasted Karen for not taking her shoes off. And Jen McCabe then got on the stand and testified that when they got to One Meadows, Karen took them around to look at the taillight and saw it was cracked or, shattered or whatever she said on the stand for the first time. That's not the way she testified. If that was the video that she was shown, then she lied on the stand when she said that because she saw the video, clearly didn't say that. So what video is he talking about? And what do you mean the report was not ready? How much could it have been? A paragraph typed up by the MSP? We've seen your reports before or their reports before. Some of them were typed up months later, but how dare they not provide you with a report in a timely fashion when the trial was already in progress? Before Jen McCabe testifies, then you exchange it after she testifies, but before Tully does. So in that in that way, you think that's okay in your mind? I am already losing it, and I haven't enough caffeine, and it's early, but that is outrageous. And the defense must have found out that they interviewed Jen McCabe because otherwise they never would have exchanged it. That's my opinion, and that's what I think went on here, and it's shady AF.
My issue, I wasn't asking for a voir dire as it relates to Dr. Russell, is that we first heard of Dr. Russell on May 21st, which was, I think, 6 weeks into trial.
Right, so that's what I asked, and you told me it was 3 days after the beginning of trial, Mr. Jackson.
No, Your Honor, I said this at sidebar the other day, and I just said it again today. I let the Commonwealth and the court know about Dr. Marie Russell 3 days after I learned about her.
Why does their sound keep cutting out?
I had never heard of her. I didn't know who she was. We made contact. I determined that she would be useful for the jury in terms of specifically the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm. I then had one conversation with her, then immediately, within 3 days of that, turned that information over to the prosecution. So I didn't say that I gave this over 3 days into trial. That's not what I said.
All right, but you were ordered to do it. Ms. Gianetti, what was the date? You had 1 week from when?
The day before the trial. So it would have been, I believe, April 15th.
So what we knew as of that date, we were required to turn over.
I need to take a quick recess.
What, all right?
She needs to take a quick break. Does she need to make a phone call? What's going on? Thanks, Team Brittany, for posting our guidelines. She's going to go to Jim and ask Jim when all this stuff was filed. Listen, a trial is a living, breathing thing with a lot of moving parts. Okay? A woman is on trial for murder. The Commonwealth decided to upgrade those charges to murder. And the defense should not be handcuffed by not being able to call the witnesses that they need to call in this trial. We went back, we watched that hearing where the Commonwealth told the world that there was no canine DNA that their expert found when we talked about their expert's testimony at length from the UC Davis lab. She was not sent the clothing. She was sent swabs of the clothing from Maureen Hartnett, who said she had never done that before. She had never swabbed clothing for canine DNA. And she took 2 Q-tips and she swabbed every single hole on that shirt, put them in an envelope, and sent them off.
Jim, the Commonwealth's motion, the Commonwealth's ruling.
She's like, Jim, the Commonwealth's motion. Sent him off to UC Davis. They did not find canine DNA. And when asked at that pretrial hearing whether canine DNA was going to be an issue for the defense said no. They did not say anything about we are abandoning any theory that
All right,
officer
so
keeps
the Commonwealth has moved that
injuries
I
were-
exclude.
injuries were caused by a dog attack. They did not abandon that theory. They said we have no issue about the DNA, the canine DNA results being turned over. That's it. And then during trial, we learned, which I hope they bring this up, that Nicole Albert knows exactly where Chloe is. Chloe's not missing. She knows where Chloe is because she met the woman from Vermont halfway and said, I told the prosecution I know where Chloe is because in case it was ever needed for anything else. And she called her dog it, and you were horrified. And so did Brian Albert.
The testimony of Dr. Russell based on a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of the defense. So I do find that there is a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of Rule 14. And I'm quoting from the notes, the importance of this, the reporter's notes to the old rule. And as you all know, we're in the process of updating that rule, but the very integrity of the judicial system and public confidence in the system depend on full disclosure of all the facts within the framework of the rules of evidence. To ensure that justice is done, it is imperative to the function of courts that compulsory process be available for the production of evidence needed either by the prosecution or the defense.
Integrity?
So what we're here to do today is decide a remedy for this violation. And that's why we're having a voir dire. I am not prohibiting the Commonwealth from anything on their examination of witness Mr. Jackson.
Dismiss the charges.
She doesn't testify. So
Oh, you're going to threaten him now?
has not received the appropriate discovery from this witness.
You don't
So we're
need to
gonna have
provide a
voir dire,
report.
And they can ask her anything that they think they need to ask her. So
And you know what? Don't worry, because Lally is not qualified enough to even ask the right questions.
That's fine. Just to
Their volume sucks.
my understanding of this.
I have the captions on.
Speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
who is that?
Dr. Fowler, F-A-L-L-E-R.
Okay.
If the court remembers, it was buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses, so.
It's the court audio.
tied to
It's up all the way.
levels, et cetera, and protocols at
Hold on, it's the court audio. Let me see if Law and Crime has it better. It's almost like we heard something pop. I'm going to switch.
in terms of the timing of it.
So
is-
the understanding
this
of the voir
better?
dire is this is for the Commonwealth's motion to exclude this testimony. All right, that's what we're here for, the Rule 14 violation.
Is that the same with Dr. Wolfe and Dr. Rentschler?
Well, I thought that would help both of you. The Commonwealth has nothing on that, and you say you haven't been able to even talk to them at all about this case.
That's correct.
So I want to find out if they have any credible, competent evidence to put forward. So we'll have a voir dire on them as well. But
So
for
that-
Dr. Russell, what we're doing here today is there's an alleged well, there's appears to me to be a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of defense
Yeah.
counsel regarding Dr. Russell.
No, what about all the Commonwealth's violations? What about the fact that they knew where Chloe was this entire time and they misled everyone and lied about it? What about that?
So let's hear from her today to see what the appropriate remedy is for this violation.
So my intention is to ask her so I have, the court understands my sort of guardrails. My intention is to ask her what her qualifications.
Okay. And then she took a break and then she came back. So let's go back to that.
I gave this over 3 days into trial. That's not-
The Commonwealth has not received the appropriate discovery from this witness. So we're going to have a voir dire and they can ask her anything that they think they need to ask
There we
her. So those are the parameters of
I
this
understand.
meeting.
As long as I know the guardrails, that's fine. Just to close the loop on the record, my understanding, and this Little can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler, Faller.
Okay.
If the court remembers, he's buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses. So he testified to alcohol levels, et cetera, and protocols at which institution? At Good Samaritan. And we didn't have that information either. Didn't
Mhm.
throw a fit. They said we were going to provide this information in a timely fashion as soon as we know that we're going to call him. He's got to be on our witness list. We didn't know one way or the other what he was going to say. We didn't have a report, and we went on about our business. That's what we were doing as well. And by the way, I would note that the notes and report under Rule 14 require disclosure of information you have. I just don't want the court to think that we were sitting on information that we didn't turn over.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just, this isn't as if it was something that the Commonwealth brought up and you need.
Okay. With the complaints, is the volume still very low or is it working now? We're very behind. The volume's low. Use a booster. There's nothing that I can do. This is the court feed. The volume booster on my browser does not work for this for some reason. Can you still not hear it? All right, let's check long crime. I love the traveling Mary. It's fine now, right? Jeez.
Needed to scramble. This is entirely of the defense position. So,
Yeah, we're
all right, so
behind. We're
that's the
behind.
big
We know we're
difference. So why don't
behind.
you go ahead and call her?
Okay. May I be excused to call?
Yes.
We commentate. That's what we do here. All right, we're going to switch to long crime. Just hold on.
So I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up. Speak right into that
Good.
microphone, doctor. Okay.
Better now?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Marie Russell, Russell.
And I'm going to echo what the court just indicated. The air conditioners are on, so please keep your voice as elevated as possible and maneuver the microphone however you need to, okay?
Okay.
Dr. Russell, what do you do for a living?
I am a retired emergency physician and forensic pathologist.
And tell me what education you have, going all the way back to the beginning, that qualifies you as an emergency physician and former pathologist before you retired.
Okay, well, I've had about at least 16 years of formal education beyond high school. Initially, I started at MIT, where I did my pre-med courses. I had always wanted to be a physician. And so I went to MIT for a year, took pre-med courses. And then I had an unusual life event in that my mother came down with cancer and she subsequently passed away. During the time away, so I took some time off from school. During that period of time, I decided to explore another interest of mine, which was law enforcement. And so I took some courses in law enforcement and I became a full-time police officer here in Massachusetts.
What years were you at MIT?
That was 1972 to 1974.
Did you go to the police academy?
I did. Once I became a police officer here in Massachusetts, I attended the Boston Police Academy where I graduated.
What year was that?
That was in 1977.
During the course of your training as a police officer, did you have any specialized training in hit and run and accidents and investigations?
Yes, I did.
And which agency did you work for as a sworn peace officer?
I worked for the city of Malden full-time for 7 years.
That would be from 1977 to 1984, approximately?
Correct.
During that time, did you continue your education in any way?
I did. So I took as many courses as I could from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council, which included a several-day course in hit and run accident investigation. I took courses in forensic photography and numerous other things. And then, and I also at the same time continued to go to college. And I did that part-time, where I eventually got a bachelor's degree of science in psychology with highest honors.
What institution was that from?
That was from Northeastern University.
And that was a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology?
I think it was a Bachelor of Science.
Got it. Subsequent to your Bachelor of Science degree from Northeastern, did you also advance your education further, formally?
Subsequent to, so yes, so I decided that I did want to pursue a medical career. And so I then attended medical school, University of Massachusetts Medical School full-time for 4 years.
Did you ultimately get a degree, an MD degree from UMass?
Yes, a Doctor of Medicine degree in 1987.
So you were there from 1983 to 1987, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you do a residency?
I did 2 residencies, actually. Most people do 1, but I did 2. I did, my first residency was a combined internship and residency for 4 years. And I did that in Los Angeles at Los Angeles County Medical Center, which is a very big trauma center and what I would consider the Bellevue of the West Coast. Very busy.
You say that just because of the volume at USC Medical Center?
That is correct.
Is it one of the busiest medical trauma centers in the country?
Yes.
You were there from 1987 to 1991, is that right?
Yes, I did my ER internship and residency during those years. Yes, there.
During that time, were you seeing patients?
Oh, yes.
You were treating patients?
Lots of them.
You were attending to patients?
I was a trainee, so I was seeing as many patients as we could. There was always a waiting room full of patients, and yeah, so I saw many patients during that time period.
you indicated a second residency. Tell me about that.
Okay, so I still realized I had an interest in forensics, and so I decided that I wanted to also train in forensic pathology. So I did a second residency in anatomic pathology, 2 years, followed by forensic pathology fellowship at the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office for 2 years.
Wow.
And the years, if that's 4 years, that would be from 1991 to 1995, approximately?
That is correct.
Tell me what your experience was as a fellow at the Los Angeles Coroner's Office, Los Angeles County Coroner's Office.
Yes, well, it also was a very busy coroner's office. And so every day there would be cases. I probably did at least 2 cases a day, most days, and plus conferences and educational opportunities. But the interesting thing about being a fellow is they try to give you a wide assortment of cases. So, for instance, I not only saw numerous victims of gunshot violence and stabbings, but I saw numerous victims of motor vehicle accidents and natural death, overdoses. And then if there was an unusual case, it usually went to the fellow, because the fellow was also being supervised. So,
did any of those unusual cases, and we'll get more into this in just a second, but did any of those unusual cases include animal attacks?
Yes.
Did you become a professor, an educator at any point?
Yes. So during my 29 years at LA County Hospital, during the last 25 of those, I was a assistant professor or an instructor, but mostly an assistant professor. And what that meant is that I was responsible for overseeing the care that was provided by the interns and residents. So when a patient would come in into the hospital, the emergency room, they were oftentimes usually seen by the intern or resident, and then I would go and subsequently see that patient also. So, and that was in addition to my own cases. So I'd see my cases and their cases.
And that was at LAUSC, correct?
That is correct. And
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
LAUSC, for those of us who are not necessarily familiar with it, is that associated with the University of Southern California Medical Center?
Yes.
That's the school, in other words, the site.
Yes. So it stands for Los Angeles County / University of Southern California Medical Center.
And that's where you were an assistant professor for the majority of the rest of your career.
Correct.
Were you also an assistant or an adjunct professor at Cal State Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay. For how long were you an adjunct professor there?
I believe that was 4 or 5 years. And I taught criminalistics, forensic medicine there.
As an attending physician in the ER, in other words, a supervising physician in the ER, can you tell us what some of your duties and responsibilities included, especially as it pertains to trauma? And then I'll get more specific in just a second.
Okay. Well, so I would oversee the care of all the patients that came in during a particular shift. And that would include medical patients and trauma patients. And as I mentioned, it was a very busy trauma center. So we had lots of trauma patients, including the types of violence I described earlier that I saw at the coroner's office, but lots of motor vehicle accident victims, because there was a highway there right nearby. There were a couple of highways, and so a wide variety of accidents.
Did your supervision include assessing, diagnosing, and treating patients?
Correct.
In terms of the middle part of that, diagnosis, was part of your job to determine the cause of injuries, or to at least assess the cause of injuries?
Yes, and I took that on a little bit more because I was interested in the forensics aspect of the injuries.
The forensic aspect?
Yes.
Okay. During your time at LAUSC, even after you left the Los Angeles Coroner's Office as a fellow, did you continue to stay in contact with the Coroner's Office and have a relationship with the Coroner's Office as a supervising physician?
I continued to stay in contact with the coroner's office, and I used to attend their conferences as often as I could, not as a supervising physician, but as a physician and a graduate of their program.
During your tenure at LAUSC, did you ever become the director of any programs at LAUSC?
Yes,
Does that include the director of Center for Life Support Training?
yes.
What years was that, if you remember?
I don't remember that.
The early 2000s, late 90s?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay.
And we would conduct lots of courses, including trauma, life support courses.
Did LAUSC incorporate a quality improvement program
Yes,
within their institution?
yes,
Did you become a director of that as well?
yes,
So you were director of Center for Life Support Training and director of LAUSC Medical Center Quality Improvement. Is that right?
the quality improvement was for the emergency department.
All right.
Yes,
And did you also become the director for Jail Medical Services?
yes.
What is the association between LAUSC and the very, very expansive jail system in Los Angeles County?
So LA County Hospital was unique in that they many years ago developed a jail, what they called a jail ward, which was a combined inpatient, outpatient, and ER. So there was a dedicated jail ER. And that has been in existence for probably about 70 years now. And so patients that were placed under arrest by either LA sheriffs, LAPDs, California Highway Patrol, or any of the municipal agencies in the area, and I think there were about 70 or more municipal agencies, could bring their patients to the LA County Jail Ward where the patients would get treatment.
Ultimately, you became the director of that entire program, correct?
Yes,
Did you also work with the State Medical Board of California in any capacity?
yes.
Tell us about that.
For about 7 years, I worked part-time for the California Medical Board as a physician assigned to one of their enforcement teams. And I did that 1 day a week, and I did my other job at the county hospital the other 40 hours a week.
So you didn't take off time from your duties as an ER physician, as an emergency physician. This was in addition to you being an emergency physician.
That is correct.
You hold the title of Chief Medical Executive for the California State Prison System, specifically at Corcoran.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I retired from LA County Hospital, and I went on to move on to the the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
And what year was that? Did you make that transition?
So 2018 is when I started for the state prison system.
Okay.
And I worked there for 5 years as director of their medical service
So
in Corcoran.
I'm sorry. So for that prison, within that system, you were the chief medical executive for the entire agency, correct?
That is correct. For the entire prison.
Understood. Are you board certified in emergency medicine?
Yes,
Are you a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners?
yes,
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes, some people would say no.
More than a couple of publications
Correct.
and peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes,
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
Did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article,
Yes,
ultimately published,
yes,
and ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
correct.
Okay. For those of you who are wondering why somebody like Garrett Wing might not be able to testify as an expert, he's not a medical doctor. With regard to dog, this doctor is so accomplished. He's even published on law enforcement dog bites, which is exactly the stuff that I did a whole show with Garrett Wing about. He is a canine trainer for the police, or he was in Miami, and for his entire life. His father was also a canine trainer. They raised and they always had canine dogs in their house. Many of them were German Shepherds. And it's been theorized that Chloe was a washout, that she did not make it through the training to become a canine police dog. This expert witness, who not only is a doctor, but a forensic pathologist, she worked for the medical examiner's office, the coroner's office. She has published on law enforcement dog bites. She's way qualified.
Did you also author or co-author an article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Is that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes,
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
dog bites, yes.
Dog bites. Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Wow.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes,
Have you qualified as an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
yes,
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
yes,
Has that been in both state and federal court?
yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Yes,
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, an autopsy report, grand jury testimony from the medical examiner in this case. There may be some other.
Based on
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You
I see.
don't know of anything else
Okay.
that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
This is
Okay.
sort of important.
Can you think of anything else, Doctor,
The
besides
autopsy.
these?
Autopsy photographs, autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report, and the grand jury testimony.
Okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scortibello, correct?
Yes,
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
yes,
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy,
yes,
grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scortibello,
yes.
photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt,
Oh, yes, yes,
and autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy.
yes, and photographs that were taken in the hospital, and I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
And the photos of the clothing, that's important.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes,
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
yes,
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm.
Yeah, what say you?
There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
And are the
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes
Okay.
in the shirt.
and on what do you base the opinion
Side.
that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And there's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, or the dog in this case, where the teeth tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
She sounds qualified to me. No wonder the Commonwealth is afraid of her testimony. Selma, I agree with you. Thanks for the super chat. First and foremost, that the prosecution should seek the truth. That and alone should be enough for her to testify. I agree. Trial is a living, breathing thing. They didn't turn over their expert, Dr. Fowler, who has already testified about, I think he was the doctor who testified about the pathology in the hospital, if I recall correctly, and about how they draw the blood and what they do in the hospital. Do you guys recall that? And I think Alan said that he was not. He's talking to Craig, the AV guy at the TV tray table. He was not turned over until during the trial.
Doctor, I want to show you a series of photographs.
It's good for the goose.
Can I approach you?
Yes.
Somebody needs to turn off their dinger in the courtroom. They should be kicked out.
First, can you describe whether or not you recognize what's depicted in that photograph? Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Is that part of what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
So this is a photograph of the decedent's arm near the elbow. And do you want me to describe what it shows?
Just briefly. An
Okay.
overview of what.
Yeah, and it shows wounds.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that be marked as next in order of evidence.
Thank you, Leandra. Mods, if you could
All
please
right,
run the
so
membership
for this
link
voir
info.
dire, we'll
great.
have separate evidence, right? Is this an exhibit number in the trial already?
It has not been marked yet, so I'm fine with starting over, sort of for the purposes of the voir dire process. Howard.
So this will be a separate voir dire with separate exhibit, yes,
So it's going to be exhibit 1.
yes.
Thank you, Duderon, for the 20. Says Judge Bev is so obvious in her hate towards the
Your Honor,
defense
just-
team. She's a
I want to move this along. This has been marked, but I think.
Hold on. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
This one of the three has already been marked, but if just for consistency, I'd rather mark it additionally for voir dire.
You need a separate record for voir dire.
May I approach?
Yes.
This one's already been marked, but I'll remark it.
Welcome, Lulu. 3860.
And if you'd tell me the exhibit numbers that they are.
Thank you, Cheryl
So,
Keller, for the
You
5.
putting these in now? There's no objection, Mr. Lally?
For purposes of this, no.
Okay. So we'll mark these now, but
May I approach?
yes.
The one with the label 2858 on the bottom has previously been marked in the trial. I would ask that this be marked as the next in order for the voir dire.
But what I want is the exhibit number at the trial.
I'll get that for you.
Yeah, if it's already been marked for trial, just use that same number. Right?
I believe it's exhibit 19.
Okay.
Lori, Life 360 for the win. Thank you for gifting 10 memberships, and for those of you who were randomly generated to receive them, welcome. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate
Is that 19? That's correct. It's 19.
Okay. And is the third one also in evidence, you said?
2 of the 3 have not been marked. I'll as soon as Madam Court reporter is ready.
She's ready.
May I just establish the foundation?
Yes.
The following 2 photographs that I just showed you, Doctor, do you recognize those?
Yes,
Did you also review those in terms of, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes,
Do they also appear to be different photographs of John O'Keefe's arm?
yes.
I would move for the admission of both of those, Your Honor, for purposes of voir dire.
There's been no objection to them, so they're in. They're already marked.
I just need to know which one's 2 and which one's 3. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay, that's. With court permission, may I publish
Yes.
exhibit 2 for voir dire?
Yes.
Spicy sour, you're funny today.
Is
Trigger.
this a photograph of the of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes,
Is this one of the several photographs that you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes,
I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. There should be a laser pointer on the desk.
okay.
Can you explain for the jurors what it is about the injuries that assisted you in coming to your opinion and conclusion that this is from an animal attack?
Okay, there's several patterns here. So for instance, let's look here, right near the elbow, the exterior part of the elbow. There's these 2 linear marks, which appear to be from upper teeth, and 2 punctures below those, which are superficial, meaning they didn't go very deep into the skin, but they appear from the lower teeth. So that's one pattern. There's another pattern close to the shoulder, which shows parallel marks, these 2, and maybe a third one in the middle, parallel marks that are oriented at a certain angle. And these are superficial wounds, which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks, but
With what?
a nail from cloth, yes.
All right.
We have some more here, similar from obviously different teeth involved or different claws, and then down here, closer to the wrist, we have an unusual pattern of at least 4 striations, the way I see it, at least 4 striations that I believe are caused from the teeth towards the front of the mouth, near the arch. It appears that there's an arch pattern here. So,
In a dog attack or in an animal
Notice how this witness, and we've talked about this before, is describing things for the record. She says these scratches towards the upper arm, these towards the elbow, and it's so important for the record rather than have her just pointing and saying here, here, here. She knows what she's doing. She's a real expert. She's a real professional. And those of you who watch the show with Garrett Wing with me, know that a lot of the things that she is saying are similar about the teeth marks, and maybe she'll talk about why you might not see marks on the other side of the arm. We'll see.
Animal attack in your experience, let's take this one down. Let's cover the ground on the 3 exhibits that we've already marked. Can we take a look at exhibit 1? Is this just a may I publish, Your Honor? Yes, I apologize. Is this just a close-up of the same injuries?
Yes,
And do these appear to be consistent with what you just testified to in terms of either teeth or claw marks, especially as it relates to the area closest to the elbow?
yes,
And then looking at exhibit 3. May I publish?
Yes.
Is this a close-up view of the area closer to the wrist that indicated those parallel, you used the word striations?
yes,
All right, and these appear to be taken, attended to the autopsy as opposed to the other photograph, exhibit 2, that was taken in the hospital. Is that right?
that is correct.
And would the time difference account for the slight change in the nature of the wound?
It could,
Photograph of the wound, I guess?
it could, or a different technique, yes.
Okay, let me take this down.
It also could
Did
depend on
you
what,
take into consideration
it also could depend on whether he was standing up or lying down when this happened, whether he pulled his arm away from the dog, whether somebody was on the other end of the dog trying to pull the dog off of him. So there's a lot of factors at play here.
the lack, in coming to your opinion and conclusion, the lack of other injuries, for instance, fractures, broken bones, or deep bruising, soft tissue injuries?
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, what else could have caused these wounds, before coming to my conclusion. And so I wanted to rule out other things, and there were no significant major bodily injuries that outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, the arms. So yeah, so having seen hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars, I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay, and in terms
Okay, for those of you who may not know, that is Paul O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's brother. And if looks could kill, they probably will. I don't know what he's thinking right now, but the look on his face is not happy. He looks angry and like he's about to blow his stack, but I don't know.
of the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attendant to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's all I have.
All right, the arch pattern,
All right,
verbalizing for the
Mr.
record.
Riley.
That's right, Celery. Can't wait for this.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Let me take you back to, you were talking about some police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of training what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the standard police academy at that time. And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts in their fields, and they were on a variety of subjects that are listed in, in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
There just for a minute, ma'am. Just Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. There, I don't, it was a long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if there was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
And I don't mean to belittle this training whatsoever, but is it fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Probably, I would not, yes, okay, probably. If
You don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
that is correct.
And am I correct in you indicated that you're board certified in emergency medicine, is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And the last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
Last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What, about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And when was it that you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year, 2024. Yes.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes.
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
An autopsy report, is that correct?
Yes.
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
Yes.
Toxicology report, is that correct?
Yes.
Then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Anything else?
yeah, hospital ER record.
Hospital ER records?
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
No.
Did you ask for anything else to review?
No.
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
Well, I requested that that I focus in on the wounds, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to say that you would want to look at anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes.
And so.
Great point, Trauma ICU RN. Your knowledge doesn't go away, and neither do dog bites. Okay, there's no additional technology. There's no fancy new breeds of dog that have come into existence since 1995. Just because she has not been in active practice, perhaps for a while, does not mean that she's not an expert in this field. In fact, she just testified that she's still called in on autopsies to this day. So I don't think that's going to work. It's not like a technology expert who last, was testifying about VHS and VCR machines in the 80s and is not up on the current technology. This is a medical doctor.
Did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
No, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites. Is that right?
Yes,
Are those publicly available articles?
yes,
And in those articles that you wrote, you were talking about law enforcement bites, correct?
yes,
So law enforcement canine bites typically involve what you call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
yes, yes.
So is there a difference between, through your experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and
Wow.
there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques, but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No,
Why not?
I don't think there was much time, and I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
No,
Now, at any point in time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
oh yes,
So you reviewed reports in relation to that, correct?
yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains to that?
Well, please open that door.
I would rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
Interesting. Because she didn't examine his body, or she didn't look at x-rays and MRI scans and whatever they did, whatever scans they did.
So who contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that
Wow.
case.
She is outraged too. She is outraged too, to the point where she reached out and she was outraged and she went to MIT and she has ties to Massachusetts. That's interesting to me.
To clarify,
And so when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked to do?
to look at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even been provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy,
Ah,
that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this, when was that?
Sometime just before May 17th.
Sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him. I said I might be able to clarify. And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
wow.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Mentioned the materials, asked your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next
You
day.
didn't tell her what to
The very
say.
next day, on May 18th, you provided an opinion.
Yes.
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How
She just said she didn't render a report, Lally. What part of that did you not understand?
was that provided?
Orally.
So you reached out or to someone
She just
shortly
said
before May 17th.
the DA, John Lewin of the LA District Attorney's Office, contacted Jackson. Jackson contacted her. She is out there, a concerned citizen who happens to be a fabulous expert in this exact subject of dog bites, reached out to help a woman who she thinks, maybe she thinks this, I don't know, but clearly thinks this is a dog attack, and she is fighting for justice and offered to help. After this trial probably already started, yeah, definitely, if it was not until May 17th. And so she spoke to him on the phone. She said, here's what I think. Send me the record. I mean, she said, send me the records. She reviewed the records, the photographs, everything that she testified, the grand jury testimony, and told him her opinion over the phone.
Spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th.
Yes.
But you didn't.
Not rocket science, Lally. So many of us just looked at the photographs, and we're not medical doctors or pathologists, and we came to the same conclusion. So I don't really think it took her that long to come to a decision after reviewing an ER record that probably is this thick. Because remember, he was pronounced very shortly after. An autopsy report, she's used to reading those because she worked also for the medical examiner's office, coincidentally, in LA, and taught and is a professor, and also worked in the coroner's office, and still chimes in on autopsies when they need help. It is not rocket science, especially for her.
Didn't write any of that down.
No.
There's no requirement that an expert write a report.
Now, beyond the materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a police officer. The decedent is a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
She doesn't need to.
That's correct.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Uh-huh.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
You reviewed everything attendant to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing from the lab beyond that?
I don't believe I did.
What else was there from the lab?
Now, this first instance, when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the from Boston Globe headline.
Boston Globe
You know,
headline,
with
not
some
Court
kind
TV.
of there was some kind of interesting case, and I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May, that just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribed to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
How
I'm gonna
long have you been a
allow it.
subscriber to the Boston Globe?
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headline.
Yeah, the free trial. She probably got the free trial from the Boston Globe. And by the way, I don't think the Boston Globe was very free Karen Reed, were they? I don't know. You guys would know better than I. Lally, your witness saw the One Meadows video on Court TV, Trooper Prawl, and then brought it to your attention that he wanted to testify about it.
Or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Nothing further.
All right, so since this is a voir dire, I get to ask questions, Doctor?
Oh, this will be interesting. Notice how Lally didn't ask her any questions about her opinion at all. Only how she learned about the case, who reached out to her, how long they've known about it. Didn't try in any way to disprove her theory or her opinion. Didn't question her about her findings at all. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I
okay.
just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really heard you. So could you tell me again what your opinion is and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes. These injuries in the arm are, my opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
All right,
high,
so
high degree of medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another
Okay, and that's the standard for an expert. Is it your opinion with a reasonable degree of medical certainty that these injuries were caused by a large breed dog? And if the witness says yes, that's what you need to prove. You can see that she's not a professional witness. She doesn't testify a lot. She seems a little nervous, especially because the judge is asking her questions, and that rarely happens. And I don't know if they asked her if she has ever testified before, but I'm going to guess she's not a professional witness.
question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that.
That you also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
I'm wondering if in Alan Jackson's exchange, he said that that's what she reviewed, that she also reviewed the dog bite history. And what was the second thing she said? The DNA submission forms for the canine DNA.
Questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
Right, you are all set, Doctor. I don't know yet whether you'll be testifying.
I don't know yet.
We'll try and let you know. You're going to be around for a few days?
No.
Okay, we'll let you know as soon as we can, okay?
Okay.
Are you going to
Okay,
be around
all right,
for a
thank you.
few days? Should they pay to keep her in the Boston area? Because the judge made her fly in. He's like, we'll let you know. Lally didn't even ask her how much she's being paid to testify. That's a very normal, common question. Maybe she's volunteered her time. I don't know.
So I would like to hear argument on this witness before we hear the other witnesses. So, and Ms. Giannetti, I asked you the other
You're right,
day
Patty.
whether she reached out to you or you reached out to her, and you said there was an intermediary. But my concern was whether she came out of nowhere and reached out about this case. And that seems to sort of,
It wasn't Mr. Giannetti, it was me.
okay. All right. So the question I asked was answered pretty much by this witness, whether she saw something and decided she wanted to come forward.
And she can be crossed on
so
that. And
Commonwealth,
Lally can cross her on that. And Lally can try and get out, that she's horrible because she reached out to the defense, because she wanted to help, because she could offer an opinion, because that's her expertise. And that she clearly felt the need to do that. And I wish that somebody asked her how much she's being paid, because she's probably doing this for free. In my opinion, I don't know. Carrie says Bev breezed in the door with all kinds of confirmation bias and a rotten attitude, and that's what Jackson has to overcome.
this motion, what are you asking me to do? Again, I found a violation of Rule 14. And there are two concerns here, the competency of the witness's testimony, how much she can testify to, whether she should testify at all. What is it you're asking me, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the witness be excluded from testifying at the trial for the violation of Rule 14, specifically, I believe it's Rule 14A6. This is a witness, as the court picked up on, that reached out, albeit through an intermediary,
Okay.
with
And?
reference to just sort of discovering or coming upon this case in several weeks into the trial. It is concerning given the fact that the witness represented that she had a subscription to the Globe Online, received word of this, and the first time that she had ever seen it or it had grabbed her attention was in that first week of May when, as the court is well aware, there's been widespread media coverage, particularly through the Boston Globe, for years at this point.
Okay, that's a very weak argument. You want to exclude her because she just saw a Boston Globe headline in May? Are you calling her a liar, Lally? Are you calling her a liar, Mr. Lally? And that's not a basis for exclusion anyway. That's a ridiculous argument, but go on with your bad self.
The limitations of the testimony, it's also concerning because the disclosure from counsel indicated, again, as the court had noted, I didn't want to get into too much as far as for purposes of this voir dire, but there was additional material that was indicated in the disclosure that the witness had reviewed, including the UC Davis related to the canine DNA or the lack thereof, as well as, forgive me, the dog bite history of that specific dog, which also, I would note for the court, includes photographs.
Okay, well, here's the thing, Lally. If she did review that stuff, her opinion would be worse for you, don't you think? So again, she says she didn't look at that stuff and she still came to the same conclusion. So that, again, that doesn't help your argument either. Neither does the fact that you just got those canine results from the UC Davis lab when you withheld basic discovery items for the defense for how long? The clothing, the EDR box, the telematics entertainment system from the Lexus. How much evidence did you withhold from the defense for years? Dude, we were there. We watched the hearings. We read the motions.
Of what a dog bite from that specific dog looks like.
And you can show those pictures to her on the stand. And you can say, here, doctor, look at these pictures from these other bites of Chloe. Look at how Chloe attacked these other people. Does that look to be the same bite pattern as you're seeing in the arms of Officer John O'Keefe? You do know that you have an opportunity to cross-examine, Lally. We know that you haven't had an opportunity to do it yet. And you just saw the difference between your skills in direct examination and Alan Jackson's skills in direct examination, which are head and shoulders above yours. So I'm guessing that your cross-examination might not be so great, but you can cross-examine her on that. And I dare you to bring out those bite pictures from the other victims. But that's a great argument, Lally, for the other side.
And that specifically apparently was not provided to this witness, who's then opining on, inferably at least, that that dog was the cause of these particular injuries. However, was not shown specifically anything to do with that bite history as far as by way of reports or photos.
You withheld the dog. Nicole Albert has known where Chloe has been for 2.5 years, sir. You withheld that information from the defense. You lied about it.
Photographs. So that juxtaposed or coupled with the immensely late disclosure. I mean, we're talking about
Bring in Chloe. Go get Chloe. Tell Nicole Albert to go get Chloe from Vermont. Bring her in. Do some sort of impression of her teeth or whatever you need to do to show that's her teeth marks. And let's get on with it. Let's find the real, let's get to justice here, Lally. You should be fighting for justice. You've spent this entire case defending the McCabe's and the Alberts. Okay, enough.
at least the 6th week of trial by the time this witness is even mentioned, not on the defendant's witness list, not mentioned at any point in time during the pendency of the case, and then sort of pops up in the middle of May, and to the point that the limited amount of material or information that's provided by counsel as far as
Limited?
disclosure opinion
You just heard her
doesn't
opinion.
come until today. So for
And it's the
for
same
all
thing.
those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that her testimony in its entirety be excluded from this trial.
Okay, let's hear the paragraph that they gave you about the summary of her opinion and see if it matched up what she said today. Let's do that. Because you were on notice, dude. You were on notice. All right.
Jackson?
Your Honor, exclusion is the highest form of punishment. It's the highest form of sanction that the court has available to it. Just to put a fine point on it, it is a dire remedy. And I know the court has mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm finding a violation of Rule 14. That sounds as if the court is suggesting or has inferred that we did something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. Because the court learned, I didn't reach out to her. She reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience with this.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
What
I don't know that there's a difference.
semantics?
What I was trying to get at, is this somebody who read about this case and said, I want to be part of that? That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue.
Or do you think maybe she read about this case and was outraged like the rest of the world that you're trying to show that John O'Keefe was hit by a car and that's the cause of his death, when she clearly sees that these are dog bites and that there was a dog involved in whatever happened to John O'Keefe, and that she is are you kidding me? That she wants to be a part of this case? Do you think that this woman wants to be trolled on the internet by every SOB in the cesspool of Twitter for her opinion? Do you think she wants to walk into this? She's looking for fame and fortune in her 70s or however old she is? Is that a joke, Your Honor? Nobody wants to be involved in this case or talk about it because of the vitriol and the hate and the attacks that are coming from the trolls out there. So no, I don't think that that's a reasonable reason to keep her out. That's insane.
Okay, I did not misrepresent anything.
I didn't say that.
You
I
did.
take
You
offense
just.
at the court's tone. Yes, you did say that.
Yes,
you
she
just
did.
said that.
I'm
You
going to
said,
rewind it. I'm going to rewind it for everyone to hear that, because she did accuse him in open court on television. The world is watching that he lied and said that he reached out to her through an intermediary, but it was really she that reached out to the intermediary because she wanted to be a part of this. Wow.
something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong.
Here, listen.
The court learned. I didn't reach out to her. She reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience with this.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
She's saying he lied.
I don't know that there's a difference. I mean,
What I was trying to get at, is this somebody who read about this case and said, I want to be part of that?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue with your argument.
okay, I did not misrepresent anything.
I didn't say that.
I take offense at the court's tone that yes, you did say that. You just said that. You said,
Okay.
I just heard the testimony, and it's not what I said the other day. I know a person in Los Angeles DA's office. I received a text message from that person saying there's someone who reached out to me who said I might be able to elucidate on this controversy concerning the dog bites. I then reached out to her. So when you asked me who reached out to whom, I reached out to her through an intermediary, my friend in the DA's office back in Los Angeles County.
So maybe it wasn't clear what I was looking for. I think it was clear. But go ahead, continue. with
Okay,
your
again, you're
argument on
saying that
this.
he's lying.
My point is,
That's the second time.
Rule 14 requires a sanction if, in fact, the attorney has done something wrong. In other words, it connotes the idea that we're doing something by actively hiding evidence or holding back evidence
Right.
or not providing evidence that you know you're going to use at some point in an effort to take a tactical advantage. And the sanction for that is exclusion. I've never met this woman. First time I laid eyes on her was during the process after she flew out here to engage this voir dire process. She indicated I could potentially provide some information about this controversy concerning dog bites. I then sent her materials. I talked to her. I sent her materials. I found her to be incredibly credible. I found her to be experienced, and I found her to be knowledgeable in this very specific area, which is rare. There's not that many people who have published, doctors who have published in the area of dog bites.
Right.
So I thought it makes sense for me to reach out to her and talk to her, which is exactly what we did. And within a couple of days, literally, you could almost count it by the hours of me receiving her information, we then had a discussion amongst ourselves. Is this somebody that we want to then present on the defense side, on the defense case, and we turned the information over to Mr. Lally. I understand that it was well into the trial, but that's not a fault of ours, and I don't think the sanction of exclusion is necessary or appropriate to punish Ms. Reed from having an experienced witness testify in rebuttal to ultimately what Dr. Scortibello and the
It's a rebuttal
Commonwealth is
witness.
gonna present
Right.
in their case in chief. That's what she's going to do. She's going to present contrary evidence or an alternative theory of where those injuries came from to a person. Everybody on the Commonwealth side who can elucidate about this has said those injuries come from a taillight, including Mr. Paul.
Yes, that's what he
We
said.
have contrary evidence, and Ms. Reed should be entitled to present that evidence, even though
Damn right.
it came late. It didn't come late by any fault of ours, and I don't believe that the Commonwealth has made out a prejudice that they can't overcome.
right.
It's late. Obviously, Mr. Lally is a skilled lawyer. There's nothing to say that he can't or hasn't been able to prepare for the cross-examination or for an examination in front of the jury. And I just don't think exclusion is appropriate.
All right, so the second part of this argument, and I'll start with the Commonwealth first. So in your motion to exclude, you also raised Daubert type concerns. So Mr. Lally, is there portions, if I permit her to testify, are there portions focused specifically on the part of her opinion where she says,
Yeah, why don't you help Lally? Because Lally doesn't know the Daubert standard. So why don't you help him and tell him where to focus? That's a really great idea.
I guess the defense expects her to be able to say she will testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material. I think you have an uphill battle on that part, Mr. Jackson. The Commonwealth, what are you saying?
Really?
If she testifies, what should she be able to testify to? And don't just say nothing. I want some input.
No. If the court were permitted to test the doctor to testify, Your Honor, what I would submit would be permissible testimony from a legal standpoint, as some factual questions in regard to that. But from a legal standpoint, I think the court could permit her to testify as to the injuries that she observed, her work in history in that area, observing prior injuries related to animal attacks and whatever consistency she believes that they have with that. I do not think it would be proper to allow this witness to testify or opine anything about the inconsistency with regard to pedestrian injuries. I don't think any proper foundation has been laid for there, whether
She wasn't going to render an opinion on that. You asked her about that. That was not what her opinion. She was not going to testify anything about a car accident. She was going to testify solely about the injuries to his arm and whether that was caused by a large breed dog.
it be through experiential knowledge in relation to that, or any sort of specialized training or knowledge, or anything to do with that. Anything from a forensic pathology or anatomical pathology perspective, I think should also be out of bounds and excluded with regard to this witness. She's certainly a very experienced emergency room physician. So anything in relation to that, I think it's permissible. But as far as the experience when it comes to motor vehicle crashes or pedestrian crashes, of which the court is well aware, there are a litany of different types of interactions a pedestrian can have with a motor vehicle.
Good, then show us some blood or tissue underneath the vehicle if you think he was dragged by that. You showed us some touch DNA on a piece of taillight that was not left during the scene of any pedestrian accident, because that's a whole complete other question of fact based on testimony of where that taillight was at the time that it landed or revealed itself on the lawn at 34 Fairview. And okay,
in a collision sequence, and simply saying, well, there was no injuries to the leg, so it couldn't have been a motor vehicle collision is just plain wrong, and not backed up by science or anything else that this witness can testify to from the very limited experience she has in that realm. So if the witness were able or permitted by the court to testify, I would submit that her testimony should be relegated to simply what, if any, opinions, her experience, obviously, and then what, if any, opinions she draws with regard to the causation of the injuries on the right arm.
done. We'll take it.
You know,
Thank
as
you.
it pertains to consistency there, but I venture to guess that it's likely that those are probably also going to be, in her opinion, consistent with many other causes beyond that,
Well,
if she's being reasonable.
then you can cross her on
Right.
it.
Mr. Jackson?
I
I'll
think-
submit, Your Honor. I have no issue with, I just said I'll submit, I'm not submitting. I have no issue with limiting her testimony to the animal attack issue, the dog attack issue. I didn't, as the court noted, I didn't spend any time, I think I may have asked one question that's consistent with the motor vehicle incident. I have no problem if the court wants to limit her testimony to the dog bite aspect and not the motor vehicle aspect. I wasn't planning on going into that aspect anyway. I've got
Right.
another pathologist who can do exactly that.
But you did go through it with her and it's on your disclosure.
It is, but I have no problem editing.
Right. I'll
So
stipulate.
why is it on the disclosure or where the Commonwealth turned over that she viewed all reports associated with Chloe's bite history and the UC Davis DNA testing? Why is that in there?
Because we set that in a Dropbox, we set everything in a Dropbox, and I assumed that she reviewed it. She must not have seen it or opened it or reviewed it. I didn't know.
Because he wanted to be
That's
thorough.
what was sent to her. Everything that's in the disclosure is what was sent to her.
Right. If she's permitted to testify, you led her through quite a bit today. You won't be able to. I mean, she struggled with to what degree of certainty she held an opinion. She struggled
No,
to
she did
what
not.
she viewed.
No, she did not. She struggled with the words that the judge understands within a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Okay, she struggled with that. She's a doctor, judge. She's not a lawyer. She doesn't know the exact verbiage, but she did not waver on her opinion. So,
She didn't write a report. I have to consider all of these things too, as the gatekeeper as to whether she can actually assist the jury. So I'm not deciding this right here.
course you're
Mr.
not.
Lally, if I do permit her to testify, I will give you time to absorb this testimony and to find an expert in rebuttal for this.
good.
How long
luck.
might something like that take?
Good luck.
Not terribly long, Your Honor. As far as preparation, I can't give an exact time frame on that. As far as a rebuttal witness, I'd say a week at the most.
A week from today?
Yes.
Why don't you start looking at least? All right, well, I decide I won't know until Thursday.
Sure.
All right.
You won't know until Thursday? Okay.
All right. Anything else on this witness?
Submitted, Your Honor.
Defense has not even started to
All
put on their case
Next
yet,
witness,
so
please.
we're a week away anyway.
With regard to Dr. Wolfe and Dr. Rentschler, this is a different scenario, and I'm presuming that the court is asking for a year on their qualifications.
Well, I want to know who did what. I want to know, they say we. I want to know who did what.
So is the court suggesting that I go through their entire testimony of exactly what they did, their testing, their opinions, conclusions, the bases of their opinions and conclusions?
However you want to do it, Mr. Jackson, we're here today on the Commonwealth's motion.
I realize that, but it's not the Commonwealth's motion to depose our experts. The Commonwealth's motion is they're not qualified as accident reconstructionists. I don't need to go, and I'm not inclined to give them a free bite at the apple
Mhm.
to
That's what they
cross-examine
want.
these witnesses twice on the basis of their opinion. I will go through, I think, to the court's satisfaction. I don't think it's going to take long to figure out that they're extraordinarily qualified to render opinions. But I don't think it's incumbent upon me to walk through their entire testimony and give the Commonwealth a free bite of the apple like it's a deposition.
That is correct. He is correct. Dr. Wolfe is one of the PhD trained accident reconstructionists who was hired by the FBI in the parallel investigation of the investigation into the Karen Reed murder investigation. Okay, if that makes sense. The report that was turned over by the FBI was turned over to both sides. The defense has it. And what the defense wants is a second bite of the apple, just as he said, which is a common term often used in courtrooms. And they want Alan Jackson to go through his entire direct examination of this witness so that they can find out exactly what he's going to say. The judge just said she just wants to hear his qualifications and who did what, because I guess it was a joint report between Dr. Wolfe and the other doctor. I didn't catch his name. So if one of them examined the vehicle parts and the EDR data, and one of them examined the investigation or lack of investigation, she just wants to know who does what, but he should not have to have them talk about their exact opinions so that Lally
Whatever
can
you want to
prepare.
do. I'm not telling you what to do. Whatever you want to do.
Judge, you need to tell him what is required for him to do so that he knows how to get this evidence in, because these are FBI hired experts. The defense did not, again, seek them out. This was a report that was exchanged by Josh Levy during his TUI document dump, because when Josh Levy, the assistant or acting attorney general for the state of Massachusetts, was investigating this case with his federal grand jury, he told both sides of this Karen Reed murder trial, I, in good conscience, cannot allow this case to go to trial, and I am going to jump through all the hoops. The hoops are the TUI process that is required to release our materials to you for your case. Lally knows what they're going to say, and everyone should be looking for the truth here. Let's see. Yes, John. Judge needs to look back on this trial and have a good look at what she has done in this case. We're a little behind, so please no spoilers if you're watching this on 4 different streams. I know so many of you do. Now listen,
Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
let's hear his
Yes.
let's hear his qualifications as they compare to Trooper Joseph Paul, who is the expert accident reconstructionist for the Commonwealth. Because remember, the Commonwealth did not hire an outside accident reconstructionist. My opinion has been that they probably couldn't find one who would take this case. So let's hear this witness's qualifications.
Thank you.
And compare them to the 120 hours of classes that Trooper Paul did.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Daniel Wolfe, last name spelled Wolfe.
So what do you do for a living?
I am the director of accident reconstruction at a company known as ARCCA, ARCCA.
And tell us a little bit about ARCCA. If you could explain to the court what ARCCA is and what its primary mission is.
So ARCCA is a forensic consulting engineering company. We have a variety of disciplines that include biomechanics, failure analysis, human factors, premise liability, crashworthiness, and accident reconstruction.
You said that you were the current director of accident reconstruction, correct?
That is correct.
Is that a specialty of ARCCA specifically?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of contracts does ARCCA routinely engage in?
We typically work for law firms, insurance carriers.
What about other clientele? For instance, maybe it's an insurance carrier or a law firm, but what about the ultimate client? The military, Department of Defense. Have you contracted with other entities or agencies, sporting agencies?
Certainly, yes. We've done research for the military. We do player safety for the NHL. So yes, we are involved in a number of research projects as well.
And in terms of ARCCA and its commissions and consultation, is it known both nationally and internationally? Is it recognized as a leader in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
As the director of accident reconstruction, do you specialize in not only accident reconstruction, but human factors as well?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a synopsis of the professional discipline of accident reconstruction? What is accident reconstruction?
Well, I think that's a very broad topic. I look at the cases that come across my desk. You know, I've been involved with pedestrian impacts, and that could be pedestrians hitting the side of vehicles, fronts, backs, getting run over by vehicles, being struck by a vehicle, then projected into another vehicle. I've dealt with your simple fender bender collisions. I've dealt with collisions that involve 60-car pileups on a highway. So again, accident reconstruction in terms of the scope for a case, it can really vary case to case depending on the facts and circumstances of that case.
And when you say dealt with, are you talking about literally going into, from an engineering and a scientific standpoint, trying to reconstruct what happened, what the causal effects were of that accident, and what the results were, the resultant damage or injuries were?
Absolutely.
What about human factors? What does that discipline entail? What is human factors?
Well, to give you an example of that, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility work where, for instance, let's say a pedestrian's coming out onto the roadway at night. Maybe it's not a lit roadway and you're relying on your vehicle headlights to illuminate that pedestrian. So it's determining when would a driver recognize that individual on the roadway based upon the headlights, if there is any artificial lighting, their clothing. And then we look at how do drivers respond based upon that scenario that they're presented with. So we know that response times are different depending on the hazard that's presented to them. So if it's a pedestrian coming to the roadway, it's a vehicle stopping in front of you. So that's the application of human factors.
And that might include everything from passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, bicycle issues, motorcycle issues, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What education, training, and background qualifies you to perform the duties that you just described as director of accident reconstruction at ARCCA?
In terms of my educational background, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University back in 2012, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my coursework while at James Madison included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, and your typical engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
Did your research area also include physics, in addition to electromagnetics?
Yes, sir.
Optics?
Yes, sir.
Photonics?
Yes, sir.
And lighting?
Correct.
Are you accredited as a traffic accident reconstructionist?
Yes, sir.
By whom?
By an organization known as ACTAR, which is the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists.
Are you trained in photogrammetry to determine vehicle crash and map scene evidence from photographs?
Yes, sir.
In other words, looking at a photograph rather than being at the scene, that is a specialty or a specific area of training that you've engaged, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you trained in Bosch crash data retrieval analysis?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise known as CDR analysis, right?
Correct.
In terms of professional associations and accreditations, are you certified by the Society of Automotive Engineers?
Yes, I'm a member of that organization.
What about being a member of Optical Society of America?
Yes, sir.
Illuminating Engineering Society?
Yes, sir.
And finally, the National Association of Professional Accident Reconstruction Specialists?
Yes, sir.
You're accredited by all of those organizations, is that right?
I'm a member of all of those. Yes, sir.
Have you authored peer-reviewed articles in the area that we've just discussed?
I've authored a number of papers in the field of physics, and one of my most recent publications was that dealing with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records.
In 2021,
Lexus.
did you author or co-author a peer-reviewed article known as Collision, the International Compendium for Crash Research Dealing with Vehicle Control History and Braking Issues?
Yes, sir.
Have you qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes, sir.
Importantly, were you hired by the defense in this case?
No, sir.
Before this morning, when you walked into court, have you and I ever met face to face?
No, sir.
In terms of the commission that you were asked to undertake in this case, that have anything to do with the defense?
No, sir.
That have anything to do with the Commonwealth?
No, sir.
So a third-party agency hired you and commissioned you, or ARCCA, with the responsibility of doing an accident reconstruction in this case, correct?
Correct.
Person to my left, this the female to my left sitting here, you ever seen her before?
Nope.
Do you know who she is?
Yes.
Yeah, the
How
world
many
is
times
watching.
have you been qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
I think that's around 20 times to date.
In both federal and state court,
Just state court.
multiple states?
Yes, sir.
Your analysis, conclusions, and opinions are completely independent, whatever they are. Those analysis, conclusions, and opinions in this case are completely independent of the defense and of the Commonwealth. Have I got that right?
It's based on the evidence. That's correct.
And you're not paid by either side here in this courtroom.
Correct.
Not paid, unpaid.
You and your team were asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who at ARCCA was assigned to the team who ultimately would undertake that analysis?
So it was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
Scott Klein has a Master of Science, is that right?
I believe he's got a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Yes.
In engineering.
Correct.
All right. And Dr. Rentschler is a PhD in what area?
Biomechanical engineering.
Were you provided and did you review certain materials in furtherance of your consultation in this matter?
Yes, sir.
I can have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thanks, Melly.
Of materials that you reviewed. Use my time efficiently, Doctor. I'm going to read through a number of materials that you reviewed.
That's right, Charlie Lynn.
Before I do that, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Charlie Lynn says Proctor had an opinion on this on day one, Lally. You're right. Thanks, Charlie Lynn, for the super sticker.
I just want you to take a look at the first 2 pages of that document and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
What is that? What are those 2 pages?
These are the first 2 pages from the report that ARCCA issued in regards to this matter.
Do you see a list of 14 items on those 2 pages?
Yes, sir.
Is that an accurate reflection of the items that you were provided by this other agency to review in terms of coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning this case?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Those items include the Norfolk SPDU homicide death report, correct?
Correct.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of State Police crime scene report, correct?
Correct.
The OCME dispatch removal report, correct?
Correct.
Photographs of the incident location,
Correct.
videos of the incident location,
Correct.
photographs of the 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Correct.
photographs of recovered evidence,
Correct.
crash data retrieval report from the 2021 Lexus 570,
Correct.
report of autopsy,
Correct.
autopsy photographs,
Yes.
3-dimensional laser scan data of a Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
a VIN-Link, VIN capital LINK report sheet for the 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
expert autostats data sheets for a 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
and publicly available literature, including but not limited to the documents cited within the report, learned treatises, textbooks, and scientific standards, correct?
Correct.
All of those items and data were reviewed by you and your team in coming to your conclusions and opinions in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to ask you one other series of questions concerning sort of who did what. Your report indicates that there were, in no small part, 2 undertakings, if I can ask them in terms of pillars: the damage to the vehicle and the injuries to the body of John O'Keefe, correct?
I would say that's a fair characterization. Yes.
Okay. And I may be butchering this a bit because I'm not being very scientific, but were you more responsible for the vehicle damage or the injury damage?
The vehicle damage.
And who on your team was more responsible for the injury damage?
That would be Dr. Andrew Rentschler.
Obviously, Dr. Wolfe, in coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning the damage to the vehicle, you had to consider the damage to the human being, correct, John O'Keefe?
Correct.
And as the team leader, in terms of Dr. Rentschler coming to his conclusions and opinions concerning the damage to the human being, he also had to consider the damage to the vehicle and the interplay of the two, correct?
Correct. We work together.
I was just going to say, is that how you two and Mr. Klein worked together to come to the opinions and conclusions that are cited in your multi-page report.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good luck, Lally. Praise be.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Under his eye. If you know, you know.
Now, you went through a list of about 14 things that are contained within your report that your firm or your agency was provided with that you reviewed, correct?
That is correct.
Specifically review all 14 of those things, or was that done as sort of a team?
Yes, I looked through all of the documents.
You personally looked at all 14 of those items that are listed within the report?
Yes, sir.
And you indicate that it was your opinions or what you did in this case, that was, you were asked to answer specific questions, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't like you were just tasked with, here's some facts, go do, or take a look at a crash reconstruction or create a crash reconstruction. You were asked very specific questions and you tried to answer them the best you could, correct?
I don't know that there were specific questions. I think ultimately it was an open-ended question.
But related to two, you testified as to two specific areas that your firm or your agency looked at, right?
Those are the disciplines that the report covers, yes.
Well, you testified about some other areas of expertise as far as human factors, visibility, luminescence, things like that. You didn't do any of those things here, correct?
Wasn't part of my scope in this case.
And the scope in your case, you indicate that it was based on the evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Now, to be fair, that's based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
The evidence is all your evidence, Lally. It's all the evidence provided by the state troopers and the Canton PD. That is the evidence in this case. Do you think that Alan Jackson came up with some other evidence, some magical evidence? Maybe he should have been showed the mirrored video in the Sally port and added that to his report as well. But I guess the FBI didn't have that back then when they hired him to opine in this case. I think the FBI just cherry picked some evidence.
So what did Mr. Klein do?
So as a part of the engagement with the entity that ultimately retained us in this, due to the confidentiality of it, only those who had access to the material to the file were allowed to review it and discuss it. And essentially, Scott Klein served as kind of another reconstruction expert to essentially bounce ideas off of and help with the review.
So for lack of a better term, sort of provided, let's say, sort of technical review of your work and Dr. Rentschler's work, is that correct?
I would say assist us with the analysis, yes.
Perhaps we should call in the supervisor that reviewed Jessica Hyde's work, that checked her work to make sure it was accurate. We should bring her in too.
No, obviously your firm or your agency issued a report in relation to what you did, correct?
That's correct.
And you've obviously had a time to review that report as far as what's contained in there factually, as well as conclusions and opinions, things of that nature.
Yes.
So is it your testimony that anything that has to do with anything factually, conclusions, opinions, or otherwise, in relation to the motor vehicle damage, those are your opinions, those are your conclusions, correct?
I would say that's fair, yes.
And again, based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
And so the facts or evidence or conclusions or opinions related to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, that was Dr. or Mr. Rentschler's area, is that fair to say?
Dr. Rentschler, yes.
Doctor, good, correct
And again,
him.
that was based on
Good,
the...
correct him, because you know what? Dr. Wolfe, the people in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that are involved in this courthouse don't like to refer to police officers as officer, and they certainly don't like to refer to doctors as doctor. So thank you for correcting that. You worked very hard for your PhD. You deserve that title, as does Dr. Rentschler.
evidence or whatever he was providing, correct?
Correct.
Which would be the same materials that you had testified that you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson? All right, so, Doctor, I just have one question for you. What specifically were you asked to do?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear the court.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained us gave us a
FBI.
selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question. Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Ha!
All right, and they just gave you what they wanted to give you, as far as you know?
What did they give
We
him?
had no say in what material was handed over to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally?
Just briefly,
It's never brief with him.
and I apologize for this. I'm just unaware. Is it Mr. Wolfe or Dr. Wolfe?
Dr. Wolfe is fine.
Dr. Wolfe is fine
So,
to
Dr.
you.
Wolfe, when you say that you were asked specifically whether or not the evidence, the limited scope that you were provided was consistent with a pedestrian collision, were you asked sort of in general terms as far as any type of pedestrian collision, or were you asked specifically as far as biomechanically could say the injury to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head have been caused by contact with the vehicle? How open-ended was this question?
Again, I think it relates to, is the vehicle damage consistent with the pedestrian impact, and are the injuries consistent with the pedestrian impact?
Bam.
And
Bam, bam. Oh, here reminds me of
again, the
Bam
whole
Bam.
panoply of injuries, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Let me rephrase. So did anybody specifically ask you to determine whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused by a motor vehicle?
I don't know that they asked us specifically. Again, they basically asked us to perform an accident reconstruction and biomechanical analysis and basically tell them our findings, and these are our findings.
Right. No confirmation bias here.
And in the materials that you reviewed, did you see anything in there of any sort of statement, suggestion, intimation, anything at all that suggested that the injuries or the fracture to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head was caused by a motor vehicle?
In terms of direct contact?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
Nothing further.
You mean like the video that they showed on Court TV that was made by some guy who lives in his mother's attic? That video showing contact to a guy's head? Like what? Hold on a second.
Whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused by a motor vehicle.
I don't know that they asked us specifically. Again, they basically asked us to perform an accident reconstruction and biomechanical analysis and basically tell them our findings, and these are our findings.
And in the materials that you reviewed, did you see anything in there of any sort of statement, suggestion, intimation, anything at all that suggested that the injuries or the fracture to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head was caused by a motor vehicle?
Did you?
In terms of direct contact?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
Nothing further.
Anything?
Nothing.
All right, Dr. Wolfe, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Guess his hair and his DNA got there some other way. As such, because he was around the car all the time. And perhaps he once touched the taillight. Or because the solo cups of blood that we don't even know whose blood it was found in a Stop and Shop bag directly next to the alleged murder weapon in the Sally Port. I don't know. This is how we do it. Blessed day, John Kavanaugh, blessed day. Blessed be the fruit. I don't know. When you're in and around Canton or Dedham, do you need coupons to buy oranges? If you know, you know.
Gotcha.
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Your
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Certainly, Dr. Andrew John Rentschler, Rentschler.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
I am a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist.
In what area of the country do you live in?
I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What is your title currently at your company?
I am a vice president and director of biomechanics for the Midwest Division.
And what is the name of that company?
It's called ARCCA LLC.
And what is the main mission of ARCCA? What does ARCCA do?
So ARCCA is a engineering consulting company, and we have several different types of engineers, biomechanical engineers such as myself, accident reconstructionists, mechanical engineers. We look at crash worthiness, safety of vehicles, and other types of events. So we really do all types of work. We do litigation type work, as well as research and development for government and private entities as well.
Let me have just a moment.
Yes.
Can you give me a brief synopsis of the professional discipline of injury causation biomechanics? What is that?
So injury causation biomechanics is really applying traditional engineering principles to the human body. So as a biomechanical engineer, I look at the response of the body to accelerations and forces and determine how an injury occurs. You know, an injury to the human body is just an engineering problem. For instance, a mechanical engineer might look at a piece of steel and you know the size of the steel and the shape of it. And if you apply a force in a certain direction, that steel will bend and eventually break. Well, we do the same thing, but we look at the human body. How much force do you have to apply, and how does that force have to be applied in what direction or manner to get a specific injury, whether it's a skull fracture, an intervertebral disc injury, a concussion. So we look at the response of the human body to different forces and accelerations in different types of settings. And ultimately, our hope is to help mitigate or prevent injuries, whether it's in a motor vehicle accident, sports setting, industrial setting, auto pedestrian impact, try and make products and environments safer for individuals.
And that's different from what medical doctors, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
Little boy walks into an ER with a broken arm. Medical doctor wants to reset the arm and fix the arm, correct?
That's right, yes.
What does a biomechanical engineer want to learn about the broken arm?
We want to learn how that break or that fracture occurs. I always say that we kind of approach injuries from two different directions. You have an injury occur. After it occurs, moving forward, that's when the medical doctors get involved. They diagnose the injury, determine the best way to treat it, what's the prognosis. As a biomechanical engineer, I kind of take the reverse direction. We look at, here's the injury, here's what's diagnosed. Well, how did that injury occur? You know, how much force do you have to apply to cause that fracture? How did the bone have to be loaded? How did it bend to actually cause a specific type of fracture? So we really kind of approach the injury from two different directions.
Okay. I have to stop to say, first of all, I love this witness. He makes it easy to understand what he's talking about. And even though he's a biomechanical engineer and he's like super, super smart, he explains it in a way that is interesting, that is easy to follow. He answers the question. He's going to really be able to engage a jury. And I bet that he's going to be asked about whether, Trooper Paul's theory about the arm being in this position when it was struck by the taillight and the glass causing the dent in the back of the Lexus, and then the taillight, I guess, exploding and causing those injuries to the right arm. I bet you that this Dr. Rentschler is going to be able to debunk that theory pretty quickly. Gringa says, this trial can't be good for my blood pressure. Thanks, Gringa, for your super chat. But this, my friends, this is what a real expert witness looks like. A real biomechanical engineer who is not robotic. That's right, Clad Castles, who's easy to understand and who knows his stuff. And he's engaging and he's interesting. I could listen to him read the phone book.
Understood. And given that scientific approach, oftentimes you can come to conclusions and opinions, scientific conclusions and opinions about the causation of an injury, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, that's what biomechanical engineering is how does an injury occur? Why did it occur? And what type of setting did the injury actually occur? What type of loading and what type of kinematics do you need to have this injury actually occur?
can you tell the court a brief synopsis
I mean, just a reminder that Trooper Paul didn't even know what kinematics is.
on the discipline of human factors? What part does that play in what you do for a living?
Well, human factors is a large part of it as well. I mean, from a biomechanical standpoint, we look at the body, we have to know anatomy, we have to know the makeup of the body. And then human factors plays a part of it as well, as how individuals respond or what their response is to different types of environments or reactions. It really all plays into looking at a specific event. How did someone react? How did their body move? How was the body loaded? There's all different types of factors that you have to apply. The human factors, kinematics, kinetics, biomechanical, musculoskeletal interactions. It's all these different factors that are really involved in performing an analysis to ultimately look at injury causation.
Doctor, as the director of biomechanics and human factors at ARCCA, what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform those duties?
Well, I got my bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering with a minor in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my master's in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I got my PhD or my doctorate in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
A little qualified.
Can you give us a brief work history up to and before ARCCA?
Sure. So I got my PhD in 2004, and then since then I've worked in the consulting field for biomechanics. I've worked for a company out in Davis, California for a while called Biomechanical Engineering Accident Reconstruction. I then joined another engineering company in Jacksonville, Florida for about 3 years called Chesapeake Engineering and Design. And I have now been with ARCCA for approximately 16 and a half years.
And in those positions and in your position currently as a director at ARCCA, do you specialize in research and analysis attendant to evaluating and studying the relationships between crash injuries, crash forces, human kinematics, and human tolerances?
I do. I mean, that's really what I do on a daily basis, whether it be in litigation type cases or the research and development we do for different companies or entities, or even internal research that we perform at ARCCA.
Doctor, what professional associations and accreditations do you have?
I'm a member of the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, as well as the Society for Automotive Engineering. Now, with respect to biomechanical engineering, there's no actual professional licensure for biomechanical engineering. So a PhD or a doctorate is the highest degree you can have in that field.
Are you also a reviewer for archives, physical medicine and rehabilitation and biomechanical engineering online?
I am, yes. Usually if you publish articles in a journal, usually that journal comes back to you and asks you to be a reviewer. So I certainly do that type of work as well.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about your ongoing education, your professional education after your PhD. Have you continued your education in areas of biomechanics and high impact injuries from the NTSB?
I have. I've taken classes through the NTSB and SAE, the IPTM, Police Technology Management Training Center. There's several different entities I've taken biomechanical and accident reconstruction courses through.
Yes, they did.
The alphabet soup, if you will, of biomechanical engineering and human factors.
Right, yes.
And you continue that today?
I do, yes, sir.
Any specific training in human kinematics?
Yes, I do have training in human kinematics.
Just out of curiosity, how do you define what is kinematics?
So kinematics is the motion of the human body and looking at how the body moves. And it's irrelevant or irrespective of the forces that cause that motion. So we're really looking at for instance, how one body part moves with respect to the next. We can see how the body moves as a result of a specific type of event.
You mentioned.
I know you're all looking and wondering, so I'm just going to point out, ladies, he's not wearing a wedding ring.
Injury mechanics previously in one of your answers. What is injury mechanics and how does that relate to biomechanics?
So again, that's a subset of biomechanics looking at the response and the strength of the different parts of tissue of the human body. On a very basic level, to get an injury or have an injury occur, you need really two factors. You need enough force to cause injury to the tissue, and you need that force applied in the right manner. So if I wanted to fracture my elbow, I certainly couldn't take a hit on my shoulder and expect my elbow to fracture. Its force is exerted in the wrong location. And likewise, if I just lean my elbow on the counter here, that's not enough force. So you need the force and you need the application of that force in the correct manner to produce what we call an injury mechanism.
And have you ever participated in any?
Dr. Rentschler, you're exactly what we've been waiting for. We have been waiting for you this entire trial to provide this testimony. And unfortunately, we are not going to hear from you until the defense puts on their case. But Doctor, you are what we have been waiting for. Am I right?
Studies or research in this area, in addition to your dissertation, getting your PhD, what about additional studies and research in this general area?
I have, yes, sir.
Can you describe that for us briefly?
Certainly. Well, just at ARCCA, I've worked with the United States military. We worked on the design of the MRAC vehicles, the mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles over in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's a troop carrier, correct?
That's correct, yes. And the issue there is they go over the IED, the improvised explosive device, and it blows the vehicle up off the ground. So you're getting very large forces and accelerations through the vehicle, through the seat, into the soldier's spines. So we're seeing very traumatic and severe spinal and head injuries. So at ARCCA, we work on what we call an energy-absorbing seat design. So when the vehicle gets blown off the ground, that seat is designed to absorb the force and the energy to protect the soldier's spine and their head.
Did you take part in the design of that seat?
I did, yes, sir.
Has that been employed by the Department of Defense?
Yes, it has been.
And are troops utilizing that new seat design, that safe seat design in that troop carrier to this day?
As far as I know, is from what they'll tell us, yes, sir.
Understood. Are you also published in this field, Doctor?
I am, yes.
Can you give us a couple of examples of current studies that you're involved in or publications that you've done in the recent past concerning bioengineering and the impact or the association that it has with human factors?
Sure. I mean, and another project I'm working on is we work with the NHL actually at ARCCA. We have an ongoing, we have an ongoing relationship with the Department of Player Safety.
Hockey's my jam. Let's go Rangers. Hockey season's over, but at least the Panthers won the cup, because if the Panthers lost, then it would make the Rangers losing to the Panthers even worse. But I digress. He is very impressive. Breath of fresh air. Let's hear what else he has to say.
For instance, we helped redesign part of the rink. In every arena, they had at the end of the player area, there was basically a 90-degree stanchion where the glass met. And so players were kind of getting checked down in the boards and then hitting up against the glass. And actually, somewhat ironically, it was Chara hitting Pacioretty into the glass, the Boston-Montreal game, and caused a cervical fracture and concussion. And the NHL came to us to see if we could have a redesign of the rink to make it a little safer. So we took crash test dummies, the anthropomorphic test device, which you've probably seen on TV. The automotive manufacturers use them all the time, and threw them into different configurations of glass. And now in every arena in the NHL, it is basically a curved piece of spring-loaded Lexan or plexiglass, where the players now, they hit into it, it absorbs the impact, and they glance off of the glass.
Is that a design that you?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry, but he mentioned a Boston Bruins player. Yes, they haven't won the cup yet, April. I'm sorry, but that was my premonition getting the better of me, because for me, hockey season's kind of over. But I hope that the Panthers are going to win. I'm sorry if there's any other Canadian fans in here, but no, they haven't won yet. I'm sorry. I have to retract. Of course they didn't win, because I'm going to be watching when it happens. I mean, I need to see the cup. We all need to see the cup. Just got lost in his testimony for a minute. Okay. Char has entered the chat. What a difference a degree makes.
It is, yes.
So both from the United States military as well as professional sporting leagues, they've come to you to help save lives, lower risk.
That's right. Mitigate and prevent injuries. Yes, sir.
What about crash and sled testing?
Yeah, I've performed a number of crash and sled tests. When you look at, any vehicle that's driven in the United States, it has to pass federal motor vehicle safety standards. There's federal regulations that they have to pass. And, part of that involves running the vehicle into a wall at 35 miles an hour, hitting it from behind, rollover type impacts. And they have these crash test dummies in those vehicles. So we perform a lot of testing for different cases and situations where we put that dummy in the vehicle and we evaluate the safety system, whether it's the lap and shoulder belt, or if it's the airbag or the seatbelt pretensioner, determine how to make the car safer. And part of that is looking at the force that's exerted on that dummy, because there's tolerance values. We know how much force it takes to cause specific injuries. So we want to make sure in certain instances, at certain speeds or impacts, that if someone's in an accident, the force acting on, say, their head or their neck or their chest is going to be below these established tolerance values.
Speaking of how much force it takes to cause an injury to a human body, have you engaged in any testing or published in the field of auto pedestrian incidents?
Yes, I've been involved in a number of studies where we're looking at auto pedestrian type impacts. Again, a lot of times we'll utilize the crash test dummy where we'll set it up and we'll actually have it struck by different vehicles or different objects to look at the response of the body. It's very important if you're talking about an auto ped type impact. You have to know the configuration of the pedestrian, the vehicle, where they hit on the vehicle, whether it's a projection type impact, a wrap, a fender vault. It really all depends on how the person's.
What about a pirouette? Does a pirouette figure in there at all? Does a flying through the air figure in there at all? And a counterclockwise strike with a, here's the thing, Doc, nobody measured where the body was, because it wasn't important to them.
Positioned and the amount of force and speed involved in that type of an impact.
And staying with that for a second, that basic subject matter, have you also engaged in studies related to slips and falls where somebody might fall from a standing position and injure themselves, either to their head, shoulders, whatever, and those kinds of injury impacts?
I have, yes. And then one of the issues we look at it there is a lot of people fall, especially elderly people. So we want to look at what types of forces are being produced. You look at hip fractures, if you slip and fall backwards, head fractures. So we're trying to determine how to prevent those falls from happening and also create devices or products that can help actually prevent injuries if someone does take a fall.
Doctor, have you been retained as an expert in the area of biomechanical engineering and human factors in the past?
I have, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Please, no spoilers. We're behind here because we comment a lot. So,
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize?
and please don't redirect my audience to other streams. Thank you. That's not cool.
it?
This is a list of my deposition and trial testimony.
Your Honor, I provided that to the court this morning.
Yes, I appreciate it. I had a chance to look at it.
Okay, that's about
All right, hang on. His deposition testimony for what?
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
This is a list of my deposition and trial testimony.
Your Honor, I provided that to the court this morning.
Yes, I appreciate it. I had a chance to look at it.
Okay, that's about I don't want to go through everything. That's about a 14-page document. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Let me just ask it this way. How many times do you think you've been qualified as an expert in the field or testified as an expert in the field of biomechanics, biomechanical engineering, and human factors?
I've testified probably over 150 times in numerous state, federal, civil, and criminal courts throughout the country.
Your Honor, move to, I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
For the purposes of voir dire, Your Honor, I would ask that this document be marked.
Sure.
Yeah, that's common when you have an expert witness. I'll go back to that.
Thank you. Have you ever testified in criminal court as an expert in biomechanical engineering?
I have, yes.
How recently have you testified in criminal court?
Well, actually, I've testified twice. The end of May, I think May 31st, I testified in McKean County, Pennsylvania. For the prosecution, it was a case where the defendant was accused of beating his girlfriend to death and basically said that she fell down the steps. So my testimony involved determining how her injuries occurred and that they were entirely inconsistent with what would have happened during a stair fall.
What about another case?
And then about a week after that, around June 6th or 7th, I testified in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, again for the prosecution for another homicide case where the defendant was accused of essentially beating his wife to death, and then said that she actually fell backwards and struck her head, caused a skull fracture on the side of the sink. So my testimony, again, pertained to looking at the injury mechanisms and determining that his story of her falling back and striking her head on the sink, it's inconsistent with the injuries and the type of force that would have been exerted in that case.
In both of those murder cases, you were hired or retained by the prosecution in the case, not by the defense, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And that's important to point out that he has testified for both sides, prosecution and defense, but the most recent cases he's testified in were for the prosecution. You don't want a hired gun that only does defense work.
Yes, sir.
Your opinions in furtherance of the prosecution's case in chief, not the defense case in chief, correct?
That's correct, yes.
With regard to this case, you were asked to look at several items. We've already gone over those in the other testimony, so I won't belabor that. You were asked to look at several items, correct?
I was, yes.
And ultimately, based on that series of information, that universe of information that you were provided, see if you could come to an opinion and conclusion concerning the incident before the court now, correct?
That's right. See if I could determine what happened, how the injuries occurred, and the events leading up to and during that process.
Without going into your conclusions and opinions, were you able to come to conclusions and opinions to a reasonable degree of science and concerns?
I was, yes, sir.
You were not hired by the defense, by me, or anybody on the defense side in this case, correct?
That's correct. I was not.
You were not consulted with or hired by the Commonwealth either.
That's correct. I was not.
It was a completely independent agency, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Before this morning, have you and I ever met?
No, sir.
And
Yep,
we've never
yeah.
talked about, you and I have never talked about the substance of your opinion and conclusion, correct?
We have not. That's correct.
You did reduce those opinions and conclusions in conjunction with your team to a report, is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
And your understanding is that report was made available both to the defense and the Commonwealth in this case, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Go
Thank you.
for it, Lals. One of the best expert witnesses I've ever seen. And I've been doing this, as you know, 30 years or more.
Good guess.
Just a few questions for you, sir. Good afternoon.
Wait, what? There was a hot mic moment there. Hold on.
Good guess.
I don't know.
Few
So he said,
questions,
I think he
sir.
said
Good
good guess. I thought it was the
Good
witness.
afternoon, sir.
Now, with relation to your work in this instance, in this case, were there any limitations as far as confidentiality or anything that were put on you or any of your team?
What do you mean by
As
confidentiality?
far as who, what, where, and how you could discuss what you did?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly we just discussed with who we were retained by in this case. I don't believe I discussed the case with anybody else except for my cohorts who were also involved in the case.
And so my question, sir, more is geared towards, at some point you were made aware that your report and your findings were made available to both the prosecution and the defense in this case, correct?
I was made aware of that, yes, sir.
And when you were made aware of that, was there any limitations on given to you as far as who you could discuss your report, your findings, or anything with?
You know, basically given the direction or the request that I don't actually discuss the substance of my opinions or my report with anybody aside from who we were originally retained to work for.
Now, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I am going to show you the first couple pages of your report, specifically right down the bottom. There's a list of items 1 through 14. I asked you to do those.
Okay.
Now, is that the totality of information that you and your firm were provided with in reference to what you did in this case?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
So nothing beyond that list of 14 things did you have occasion to look at, review, or have any opportunity to see at any time?
Well, aside from we did do testing in this case, so we did do other
Aside
work.
from your independent testing, I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you That is a sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct. Yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you or your company for this, but within the report, there's a lot of wheat. So what I'm asking is, did you personally review each of those 14 items that are listed in that report?
I did personally review every bit and every page of information that was provided in this case. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of wheat. What does that mean? In that information, there's a lot of wheat. I've never heard that expression before. What does that mean? Wheat and chaff? I don't, is that is that a biblical ref? What is that? But indeed, Lally, despite the fact that in your opinion, there may be a lot of wheat in there, shredded wheat, he did review all 14 of those documents, Your Honor. Chaff and the wheat, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I heard. I heard wheat. Meat? Yeah, I don't think you said meat. All right. All right. We got to settle the bet. We got to settle the bet. Don't rely on the closed captions. Just listen.
I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you, that is a sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct. Yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you or your company for this, but within the report, there's a lot of wheat. So what I'm asking is, did you
Wheat.
personally review each of those 14 items that are listed in that report?
I did personally review every bit and every page of information that was provided in this case. Yes, sir.
He
And
did.
to
Sorry,
be
Lally.
clear, just to sort of close the loop on this, when it comes to those 14 items, were you allowed to ask for any additional items, or was it just you were limited to this is what you have, go form an opinion?
There may have been discussion about if there's other information available, but I believe ultimately that we rendered our opinions obviously just on this specific information that was provided to us.
Now,
Thank you, Lucas Knight, for pointing this out to us. He says, you people are joking, right? Wheat and chaff, what's good and what's not good. Okay, so the wheat is the good stuff. So they were only provided with the good stuff, not the bad stuff. I guess it depends which side you're on as to what's wheat, and what's chaff, what's good and what's bad. Gotcha. All right. I guess it's
as far as your opinion in your report, when was that issued?
February 12th of 2024.
So that date on the top of the report of February 12th, 2024, that's when you sent the report to the people that contracted you to do
FBI.
the analysis in the first place.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
May I approach you?
Yes.
The FBI,
Sure.
Lally. They're watching. Mm-hmm. Right, Melissa. You think the FBI only gave them the good stuff? Left behind all of the mountain of evidence that shows this was a
Now, am I
pedestrian
correct?
knockdown.
And what I'm trying to ascertain here, Doctor, is just sort of the different roles that you and the other members of your team performed in reference to this. Am I correct in that your primary role in this pertained to the sort of biomechanical engineering analysis of injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe?
That would be correct. Yes, sir.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but Dr. Wolfe would have been more responsible for issues related to the vehicle itself.
Generally speaking, yes, that would be correct.
Obviously, there's some interaction between damage to the vehicle and injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, but as far as your primary sort of any opinions contained within this report pertaining to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, those would be your opinions, correct?
Yes, any opinions or information with respect to the injuries would be my purview and my opinions in this matter. Yes, sir.
And concomitantly, so any opinions related to damage to the motor vehicle, those would be opinions of Dr. Wolfe, is that right?
Well,
He
to
just said
some
that.
extent, I mean, certainly I would have opinions as well based on the interaction or alleged interaction between the body and, for instance, the vehicle in this case, and what damage to both the body as well as the vehicle you would expect. So I think there's basically some overlap between those issues. I wouldn't say that it's a complete separation.
And so, and again, Doctor, what your opinions or ultimate conclusions are, whether they be yours or Dr. Wolfe's or a combination of the two, it's all limited based on the information and the evidence that you received, correct?
It certainly is based on the information that we reviewed and listed in our report. Yes, sir.
Now, as far as sort of a mandate or from the agency that hired you, when you
Mandate.
asked to answer a specific,
Mandate. The FBI mandated that you do this and mandated that you really, do you think the FBI strong-armed Dr. Rentschler into giving an opinion that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car? Is that what you think? That they gave him a mandate? Here's what you must find. This is my edict, my mandate. You must find this because the FBI has a personal vendetta against you, Mr. Lally, and against the Commonwealth in general, and against your district attorney, Michael Morrissey. That's what they were mandated to find, really?
question, or were you asked to just do an analysis based on what we sent you, or how was that put to you
We
as far
sent
as
you.
what you were
You
What you were
sent
doing.
anything.
There was a specific request that we were asked to perform and to evaluate in this case.
And specifically what I'm asking, sir, is there's an analysis in there of whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused from contact with the vehicle, correct?
That is part of my analysis and opinions, yes, sir.
And were you specifically asked to address or answer that question by the agency that hired you?
That was one of the questions I was specifically asked, yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Were you harassed? Were you threatened? Were you bribed? Do people have information about you that they threaten to reveal if you don't give the right opinion, if you're not mandated
Anything
to give the right
further,
opinion?
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, John. Thank you.
All right, so Doctor, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So regarding the specific request, what were you tasked to do specifically?
So specifically overall, I was tasked from the biomechanical standpoint to determine or to see if it's possible to determine how the injuries in this case occurred. And part of that was determine whether the injuries, the head injury and the arm injuries resulted from contact with the Lexus in this case.
Okay. And regarding all of your prior testimony, a good deal of it seems to be in depositions. Any of those in Massachusetts?
There's a couple, I believe. I've testified at trial in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Middlesex Superior Court.
Do you know where that might be? I do want to look at that.
I can find it for you, maybe a couple of months ago.
You know, because it is a privilege to be qualified as an expert here in Massachusetts, doctor. So, you know, if no other Massachusetts judge has ever qualified you, well, then I would be the first. And in such case, then I may not agree to qualify you as an expert. Are you flipping kidding me?
A criminal case or a civil case?
Oh, it was in civil case. I
Okay.
think, let's see here. I think, yeah. So let's see. There was one November 14th, 15th, 2023, Middlesex Superior Court. That was probably the most recent one.
Okay, what number is that on there? If I want to go
that
back and
will-
look at it.
That is number 310.
Thank you. Is there another Massachusetts case?
Oh, I'm sure there are because I know there's some from earlier in my career. Let's see.
Yeah, she doesn't want to go against any other criminal judges
See if I
ruling in
can find them for you
Massachusetts
real
by not
quickly
admitting
here.
him. But here, at least 300 cases on there and more. Look how many pages that document is. The cases that he's testified in or given
Yes.
depositions in. Oh, a lot of wheeze in that report. Okay. I thought he said wheat. Thank you, Sasha. She says, OMG, it had nothing to do with wheat versus chaff. That's such an obscure reference. Well, knowing Lally, who knows? Look at the context. Sir, which part did you do? Because there's a lot of wheeze in the report. We, like we did this, we did that. Thank you, Sasha, for clearing that up.
Oh, there's 68. I'm gonna butcher it. Worcester.
Worcester.
What's
Is
What's
that a civil or criminal case, Doctor?
that is a civil case as well.
Okay. What year was that?
Oh, that one was 2012.
Okay.
She can say us standards are higher in criminal.
Any others that you think of or you see?
There may have been a couple others. I
He's a
don't recall off the top.
All right, I'll go through it more closely. I
Sure.
appreciate you saving me some time.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions based on my questions?
No, thank you.
No.
All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You are all set. The FBI hired them. They did not contact the defense. The defense did not contact them. The defense did not pay them. And if you're going to say that the FBI hired experts are not qualified to testify in your courtroom,
Mr. Lally, I will hear you on your motion. Now, we didn't get into the ultimate opinions and the basis for that opinion, but I'll hear you on your motion.
Your Honor, what essentially what Commonwealth was seeking and had been seeking was just in reference to that, as far as who did what and who was responsible for what and what were the items reviewed, and is that the totality of it? There's a date on the report. I don't know if that was a date as far as when it was filed, when it was opinion was rendered, when that was provided, what was provided to them in
Then why
the
didn't you
course
ask?
of their analysis.
and
So
you had both of these witnesses on the stand. Why didn't you ask, dude? What?
I think very simply what the Commonwealth had been seeking for the most part was covered today.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
you did get what you wanted.
All right, I have some questions as to
Cool.
the scope of the testimony of the witnesses.
You. See. Don't you dare.
So, Mr. Jackson, you intend to have them testify consistently with the report, everything covered in the report?
Correct.
And the conclusions, all 4 conclusions in the report?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Lally, what's your take on this?
I do have an issue with number 4. I don't think they're qualified to testify to. I don't think either of them is qualified to testify to that. That's more of an area of forensic pathology.
Number 4.
What do you say to that, Mr. Jackson?
Number 4 is, their opinion is, there is currently insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's skull brain injuries or the circumstances surrounding the event. That is well within the scope of their expertise. Obviously, I don't think I have to beat this dead horse. They are highly, highly qualified to review all 4 opinions. And if the evidence in their opinion, their expert opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, which is what's evidenced here by the report, is that there is insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, then that is an opinion that they are well within it's well within the scope of what they can testify to. That's their opinion, that's their conclusion. Mr. Lally is going to have an expert, Trooper Paul, who's going to differ, or who has differed in that opinion. So be it.
And I would have kept it out. Remember, I would have kept out any medical part had there been an objection. And when you objected, I sustained the objection.
No, I think we're talking about 2 different things, apples and oranges. I didn't, that's not, Trooper Paul's opinion is that his injury or his injuries, or I think he said variously that it was blunt force, could have come from the curb, or it was blunt force because the road was blunt. That was his opinion, and he was sticking to it. This is contrary to that. Both of these individuals have come to the conclusion and opinion that the evidence is insufficient to support that determination. And it's well within their purview to testify to that.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't think that's their actual opinion. I initially didn't think of it in these terms as it's phrased on the cover page of the report. If you look at the actual opinion
I
and
was looking at
findings,
the last page. Are they the same on the front and the back?
I think the front is a little more definitive and concerning. The back, I think, more as to it's consistent with a whole multitude of different things. So the fact that I don't really think that's an opinion at all, to be honest with you.
Oh, that they can't determine
All
what
right,
caused
I'll
the
take a
skull
look at this
fracture?
more closely, give you a decision Thursday. All right, I did not expect it to go this quickly. We could have had the jury here, but I'm sure you all could use the afternoon to prepare. All right, Mr. Lally, let me know Thursday if you need, are you ready to go forward at least with your case on Thursday?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Let me know Thursday if you need additional time. If I let these witnesses, if I let Dr. Russell testify, how that impacts our schedule. Okay.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
All right, but I don't want that to be a concern of yours, how it impacts the schedule. That's my concern. I just need to know. All right, so anything else?
For the Commonwealth.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you Thursday morning.
What's coming, Edgewood Gal? Is there something that's going to happen? Should I let it roll? For those of you that were ahead, is something else going to happen here? Is that it? Wait, what's coming?
Crime legal.
Nothing except for the next. All right, so she's not going to decide until Thursday. Big shocker there, eh? Big shocker there. Not. Not. Okay, so she's not going to decide until Thursday whether or not Dr. Russell is going to be able to testify. I think she just wanted to hear. Yeah, what was coming? I don't know. What were we waiting for? I don't know. She would have had court all day. She knew this wasn't going to take all day. She knew what the scope was. She wanted to hear the qualifications of 2 of the PhD experts that the FBI hired, and she wanted to talk to Dr. Russell, find out what her opinion was going to be. I mean, they could have had court this afternoon, but no, tomorrow's a federal holiday. No court then. Thursday, full day. But again, Friday is only until noon. So why is Friday only until noon? Summer's down the Cape. Is that why? I don't know. You tell me. True Crime with Stephanie Michelle. Thanks for the 20. My live is tonight at 6 p.m. Go check out True Crime with Stephanie Michelle at 6 p.m. Eastern. Her first live stream ever. Be there. And yes, no bullying allowed. Be kind. It's free and stay classy. And congrats on my 50K. Thanks, you. Be at 100K in no time. So happy for you. You deserve it all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Lizard said the judge with Robert Downey Jr. was filmed in Dedham Court. I did not know that. We'll need to go put that on our movie list. Thank you, Susan Agnello. My opinion, they valued the dog's well-being more than John O'Keefe. Chloe definitely had a part in all this. Just saying. Thanks, Susan, for your opinion and for your 5. Chloe Albert's revenge, apparently because you hugged Karen Reed's mom and went on Natalie's stream. She's compromised. Who's compromised, Natalie? This case has people's brains compromised. Yeah. That's the first time I ever met Natalie. And yeah, I don't know. People are whack. Thanks for the super chat, Chloe Albert's revenge. And let's hope Chloe Albert gets revenge in all of this. And why not? Let's bring her in to testify too. I'm offended that they called Chloe it several times. Thanks, David Edward, for the super chat. Song for the playlist. People get ready. Oh, good one. Good one. Fracas. If our theory of the case is accurate, can you imagine the level of manipulation and gaslighting that exists for John O'Keefe's mom and brother to defend the guilty? Yes. Horrifying. Thank you for the super chat, Fracas. Thanks, Cam, for being a member for a whole month. Did they have a Dalberry hearing for any of these Commonwealth experts? It's a standard that must be found factually by the judge to even allow them to be an expert, and it's Supreme Court precedent. Yesterday, shaking my head. I have questions about whether Trooper Paul was really called as an expert witness in this case, or whether he was called as a fact witness who did the investigation for the MSP. I don't think he was ever qualified as an actual expert. We were not privy to any Dalberry hearings before the trial or any voir dire. So I'm wondering what other actual hired gun experts the defense has. I mean, they had Jessica Hyde and they had Ian Whiffen. I guess the defense was just like, go ahead, let him testify because we can get him on cross. I don't think we had any, right? You guys, we didn't have any hearings, any voir dire before the trial, or even, I don't think we even had any motions to keep out their testimony because we did all the motions in lemonade together. Thank you, Stephanie, for another super chat. Beb is being ridiculous. I am outraged. Thank you, Stephanie. Lila Kogushka, always coming in here with the info. My opinion, this entire thing is Bev helping the Commonwealth to hear the experts before they testify. Melanie, you're the best ever. You make us laugh. You make us think. Congrats on 50. Thank you. Thank you for always coming in and being such an interesting and integral part of the chat and comments. Heather, thanks for the 20. The AdSense advised prior to trial they needed more time. Bev wouldn't budge in any, the defense, right. The defense advised prior to trial that they needed more time. Bev wouldn't budge in any trial, a critical witness could come to light. Happens all the time, right? What is my email? It is fanbase@mlittlelaw.com. Thank you, Heather, for your super chat. And Duty Ron, again. Unreal. Wow. I don't know what that was about, but the whole day has been unreal. Lisa, thanks for your super chat. I think Auntie Bev would prefer a trial with just a lollipop. Yeah, well, maybe. The world is watching. I know you guys are worldwide. Charlie Lynn, thank you. They are effing they are the effing feds. They aren't allowed to talk to them. How can she punish them for that? Of course they're credible. Bev, do you honestly think Trooper Paul is credible? Poor Trooper Paul is getting sort of excoriated all over the internet, I think. They put him in that position. Should have been prepped better. And he tried to read from his report, tried to memorize his lines, but in the end, I thought it was a big fail. I don't know how it's being spun on the other side. I don't know. Solomon Landscaping, thank you. This is a disgrace. The real murderers and co-conspirators will probably never be charged. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to see this disgraceful. Thank you, Solomon, for your constant support. Blessed Mom from Texas. Thanks for the 20. Love you, Melanie. I cried watching your video with you and the defense team. You're amazing. Lots of love to the mods and the chat. Keep liking the video, everyone. Thumbs up, please. Let's go. Real experts. Pray for me and my family. We stay safe in South Tropical Storm. We're on vacation. Okay, everyone pray for Blessed Mom in Texas. She's an integral part of this chat and community. Prayers up. Prayers up. Where are you? Where are you? And where is that storm coming in? I barely watch regular television anymore. I don't even turn on the weather anymore. I get my information from you guys and YouTube. I'm just a girl in the world. You too are so kind and generous. And if you saw my Insta post, that was the theme song I picked for my Insta post for 50K. So thank you so very much. Because you're always here and participating. Suzanne, Glamma Suze, Glamma. Thanks for the 5. That's a stink eye. Paul may need some likes. David, thank you. This can't be direct examination. Jackson hasn't said what, if anything. Oh, the difference. What a difference a few words makes, right? And a little shot of confidence. 230. Thank you for the 5. She has more certificates than all the Commonwealth witnesses combined, but alas, she's not certified or fluent in conversing with crime scenes like Trooper Paul, right? The crime scene spoke to him, kind of like the way evidence just reveals itself in Canton. It just reveals itself. So everyone drive by 34 Fairview twice a day, and maybe you will find some evidence that has revealed itself. Satai, thank you. Dog bite orientation is from behind John. Bite is closing, so scratches lead to main bite punctures. She has to let Dr. Russell testify. I don't see how she can't. And we're in pursuit of justice here, right? Defendant has the right to a fair trial. I thought it was so interesting that Dr. Russell saw a headline in the Boston Globe and said, maybe I can help shine some light on this. And reached out to her LA DA friend who reached out to Jackson, and there she was today. Hazelnut, thank you so much for the 20. This doctor is so well qualified. Nice hat, Millie. Thank you. Skull Buffs. Skull Buffs going to be a great season. Solomon Grundy, if you bend his arm, he was covering his face. There you have top and bottom dog bites, forearm and bicep. Right. This is the way most people would defend themselves, right? You're right-handed. And I did a whole show with Garrett Wing on that, and that's what he said. He brought in that prosthetic arm that they use to train canine dogs to bite. He said the hardest thing is to get a dog when you're training them to bite human flesh. That's the hardest thing to get them to do. But once they have their first bite, then they're used to it and they bite more. Chronically caffeinated, thank you. Lally's trying to play a game of gotcha with her. He will not win. Nope. Sure didn't, in my opinion. 230. Did you 230? Alan Jackson is an oral surgeon, right? Because he's had to pull teeth so many times in this trial. She has more certification than all the Commonwealth witnesses combined, but she isn't fluent in speaking with crime scenes like Trooper Paul. Correct. Ben George, Lally, prove to her it's cuts from a taillight. Yeah. Doesn't want anybody blowing that incredible testimony and theory out of the water. Chronically caffeinated. She never attributed the bites to Chloe. She consistently said a dog, right? A large breed dog. Well, she can't. She can't because Commonwealth hid that they knew where Chloe was, in case anything was ever needed. In the future, like Nicole Albert said, Kelly, could the jury be watching this? They're not supposed to be watching anything having to do with this trial. That's why the judge asks them those 3 questions every time they come in. Have you watched anything? Have you seen anything? Have you discussed the case? What's really going on? What is really going on? What's going on? I'm going to add that to the playlist. The judge is not interested in justice and truth. Thank you for your thoughts. Blessed Mom from Texas, I'm so outraged. A mistrial won't help Karen Reed because of the money, that she's already spent. But the judge is trying to make defense look bad. This is so bad. Shame. I agree with you, Blessed Mom from Texas. 3 Dog Mary, thank you for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for the 10. Ben, why would he need a rebuttal witness? His first witness didn't already prove it came from the car taillight. Pretty weak if he needs one. Agreed. KM Karma Matters. Justice for Officer Don O'Keefe. Thank you for your super chat. Does Bias Bev know which experts are from the feds? Yes, she does, as you can see. Thanks, Megan, for gifting a membership. You're so very kind and generous. If the dog teeth fit, you must quit. Free Karen Reed, says Paul Revere. Thanks, Paul, for your super chat. Hazelnut, thanks for becoming a member. Chloe Albert's Revenge. Thank you again for coming in with another super chat. Jackson was not dishonest or sarcastic. He called him a skilled lawyer. He did say Lally is a skilled lawyer. He did not say he was skilled at lawyering. I guess button collecting. This was interesting. So, of age homegirl, I highlighted this earlier, basic female, says, I'm sorry, you said the acting U.S. attorney for Massachusetts, right? That's Josh Levy, said the case shouldn't go to trial while the current Norfolk DA posted a video saying the evidence shows Karen is the culprit. Yeah. Yes. You would be hearing that right. Go to my Karen Reed playlist, and I did a whole entire show on the motion to disqualify the district attorney that the defense made. And you will see that video there. And then there is another hearing that we covered that I think is called something like Feds Release 3,074 pages of documents. That's another very interesting hearing. And you can be privy to all of these pretrial shenanigans that went on before the trial. Nay, thanks for becoming a member. And Margaret, thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to both of you. Charlie Lynn, someone should review your work, Lally. Oh, wait. Thanks, Charlie Lynn, for your super chat. Crime Blog Weekly, good morning. Good morning. Back from London, UK. Hello to London. Hello, Crime Blog Weekly. Thanks for coming in again. Appreciate you. Lag Kiger, thank you for your super chat. It says qualified. Qualified, check. Agreed. David Moulton, thank you. Did physics play a role in this event? You might think so if you knew what physics was. Evolve My, thank you for the 10. Commentary on fire under his eye. I know. Yeah. This is a little reminiscent of Handmaid's Tale, isn't it, my friends? A little reminiscent. I don't know. Are you guys fans? Do you follow that show? I love that show. And the more that show went on, the more realistic it became. And it's scary, scary, scary. Thanks again. Veronica, thanks for the 5. It seems Andy Bev is looking for reasons to exclude testimony, not for articulate, educated testimony that could lead to the truth. So it sounds, that last question, have you ever been qualified in a Massachusetts court before, was so weird to me, as if that was the be all and end all of whether she was going to allow it. He had pages of testimony he's given in all kinds of cases, and he's testified for both sides, most recently 2 cases for the prosecution at criminal trials. So that could be an appellate issue if she refuses to let him testify as an expert, in my opinion. Jen Hoffa, thank you for the 10. Hit me with your best shot. Defense Team Spotify playlist update. Oh, it's already on there, Jen. It's on there. Wearmouth, thank you for your super chat. Kasha. I always try to be fair and to give the benefit of the doubt. Today is the day that, in my opinion, the judge eliminated all my doubts that she is in fact biased and leaning towards the Commonwealth. Thank you, Kasha. Suzanne Glamasuz, thank you. Years ago, Jack Edwards said, Char dared pirouette on the ice, 6'9", 265 pounds doing a pirouette. That's crazy. Gaelic magic. Putting up the V sign is like giving the finger in UK. I found this out the hard way. Oh, this is the peace sign. I call it a peace sign. So which one? Which one is peace and which one is not? Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to offend. I just give the peace sign because, peace, love, and happiness. I'm a hippie. Look, Grateful Dead. There's a Dave Matthews Tour poster. Chloe Albert's revenge. Anybody going to tell him one of his dummies got out and testified yesterday? I think another one investigated this case. It's crazy. You can't script this, my friends. You can't script it, and you can't believe it. Howie, thank you. Why do you think Lally decided to take this case? Well, Lally's an employee of the DA's office. He's an ADA. He gets assigned cases. He's on the payroll. And he doesn't really have a choice. Why did Michael Morrissey decide to prosecute this case? Only Michael Morrissey can answer to that. He is on the defense witness list. I suggest if you haven't seen it, go back and watch that show I was talking about. But I think Michael Morrissey has some splaining to do about that, what I call hostage video that he released back in August of 2023, where he's in front of a set of legal reporter books. And half of them are upside down and they're all out of order. And he looks like somebody's off camera holding a weapon at his head. And he read a statement about how the third party culprit theory was nonsense, that none of those people had anything to do with it. Colin Albert was never in the house that night. And this needs to stop. Michael Morrissey has his teeth in this case and he will not let go. And a lot of people have questions about why these charges were brought, why this case was prosecuted, why it hasn't been dismissed, or why the whole thing hasn't just been dropped. And, that's why the Free Karen Reed movement started, because people are outraged. I don't know. Are people threatening Morrissey? I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not local. You guys who are local know better than I do. Lulu 38.6, is that word on the street? Thank you for your super chat, Lulu. Kamala, thank you. Why is Lally wanting not to talk about the head injury? Has there been any testimony about the head injury? No, we haven't yet to hear from the medical examiner. We have yet to hear the injuries in their totality. We have yet to hear how John O'Keefe died, what his cause of death was. We know his manner of death is undetermined by the medical examiner, but I don't know. Crash test dummies. This is David Reese. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks for being a minute. Ches in the sentencing Friday afternoon. Thanks for telling us. For those of you who are local that are following that. David, thanks for your super chat. Very disappointed that we didn't learn if all crime scenes talk. Thank you, Micah Shiny. I think the sentencing for the killer of Weymouth Officer Chestnut is Friday afternoon. Yes, thank you. Oh, that's why there's only half day Friday is what you're saying. Okay, got it. Because isn't Judge Canoni on that one as well? Lulu, thanks for the 10. Oh man, I forgot to add to my chat or the previous super chat. Melanie, can Bev actually keep these people out? What happens if she does? Or what does that say about her? Can she get in trouble? Discuss it. Nope. Judges have judicial immunity, so their decisions are their decisions. They can be appealed. There's no civil liability or criminal liability for that. It could be an appellate issue if she refuses to let them testify. She, at the end, as she said, as she reminded all of us, because she likes to teach the law, she told the jury she was going to teach them the law. She's the gatekeeper here. So there's that. Hi, Fairy Raven. Hello to Ireland. They have the nerve to say Dr. Russell struggled with her opinion while Trooper Paul barely strung a sentence together. If you know, you know. Suzanne, thanks again. Can't Dr. Russell also be considered a rebuttal witness? I really like Dr. Russell, and I think that that's what Alan Jackson tried to say in his argument. So I would say yes. Charlie Lynn, thanks for the 5. You're amazing. The case has destroyed my faith in the justice system. Can't believe she thinks lovely doctor is in it for the clout. Outrageous. Yeah. Susan, thank you. I'm seriously sick to my stomach and crying at my desk, watching the judge blatantly not caring about finding out the truth. The gatekeeper. She is the gatekeeper. Veronica, problem with appellate issues is that the defendant is sitting in prison while they are sorted out. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Not good for anyone. And this defense costs money. So it's a great thing that so many people have contributed to her defense fund, because this is, I can't even imagine how much this is. Tina, thank you so much for the Venmo and saying that without my amazing commentary, it's hard to imagine watching this trial. Thank you. And Sherry, thank you also. It says, this is such crap. I'm so done with Lally and Auntie Bev. Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa says on vacay, got the international plan worth every penny to watch with you when Pirouette entered the chat. That's so sweet, Lisa. Love you, girl. And she liked the pink handbag that I wore to court. Totally unintentional. I mean, it matched my outfit. I grabbed that out of my closet. I wasn't thinking. Bianca, thanks for buying me a matcha latte. Says, glad you got to go into the courtroom on Friday. Your commentary is just like mine. I feel like we would be best friends. Thank you, Bianca. I get that a lot. Thank you. And thank you, Justin. Oh, interesting. In Japan, lots of self-deletions in the prosecution. You're in Japan right now? Justin, thank you. Thanks for the Cash App. And Kimberly, thank you for thanking me for all the giggles and for your Cash App. And Robin, thank you for your Cash App. You guys are so amazing. And Kamala, thank you. Just for the coverage, you're the best. Kamala, you're in here all the time. Thank you guys so very much. We're just going to keep on keeping on, my friends. We're going to be back here on Thursday for a full day of testimony. Amy, thank you so much for 2 matcha lattes. She's thanking me for my attention to every detail in this train wreck of a trial. And says that it's as, as impressive as Karen's. See if there's anything else in here that we should talk about. Susan, thank you so much. Says that I'm a champion to those in need. Thank you for the Cash App. And Justin again. Thursday, full day. Friday till noon. Tomorrow night, I will be joining. Hold on. Oh, and thank you, Clinton, for congratulating me on 50K subs. Thank you. Oops, so very much. I also got an invite tomorrow night to go on Broken Baker's show all the way in Denmark. I don't want to get it wrong. So tomorrow night, I think it's at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll post it later. I'll promote it. Marzina, thank you. A baby shark, do rescue puppy. I've been bitten by many female dogs. That's interesting. All right, so Broken Baker tomorrow night. Oh, we're at 51K. Yay. Thank you, amazing mods. I'm sorry. No, tomorrow night, Kelly, tomorrow night, I'll be on Broken Baker, 8 p.m. Eastern. And who knows who I might team up with in between that. You got to subscribe. You got to hit the subscribe button down below. It's free. And also hit the bell so you'll know when I go live, because otherwise you won't know. We don't want you to miss it. Love Broken Baker too, Melissa says. Yep, Broken Baker. Like the video. Got to push it out. Commonwealth won't get your DNA. And I think Broken Baker just told me that Runkle is going to be on too. And also maybe some other people. So you don't want to miss that tomorrow night, 8 Eastern. It's going to be the middle of the night for him, but he's cool with it. I'm cool with it. Speaking TC, thank you. My daughter cut her head from falling down on her dad's dumbbell. I believe John O'Keefe fell on something metal in the weight room downstairs. From Spokane. Oh, Spokane. Thank you very much. All right, moderators, thanks for keeping it classy today. Feels short, right? When it's only like 3 hours and 45 minutes. But that's, it is what it is. It's half a day today. So here we are. Everyone go enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you, moderators, for keeping it so classy. Thank you to my members, viewers, replay viewers. Hit that like button on your way out. And remember, my friends, As I always say to end every show, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not hard. You guys, really, it is so not hard. Try it. You might like it. I'll see you tomorrow night, if not before then. Good night, everyone. Peace. That is the peace sign. That is not a derogatory thing. Thanks.